tell you, I've had some lip off anonymous fools on that X in recent times. And it's because I side with James Lindsay on this old walk right thing. But I always have. In fact, I was in possession of the knowledge that he is now akin to a long time ago. Whereas when he got to the stage of there's something that goes hand in hand between the cluster B personality disorder thing and this just, circular thinking. He put it together, but he went a real long way of going around it. So he did the diligent work. And in the end, by the time he's worked out that, oh God, the people that you're up against aren't so foolish, and be a matter of, this woke movement's like also a branch of sorcery. All of the methodologies of the sort of New Age cult movement have found their way here, and I'm like, finally someone gets it. Finally gets what they're up against, and it'd be a matter of, you've got to take things into consideration in this great struggle we're in, right? That everybody who plays this beat the walk stick game all know it's bullshit, and they all do it for their own personal gain. Every single one of them. So why it can't be broken, because there's so many people who see a benefit in it, and then there's those other people who can be easily tricked by words as to say, well, what's wrong with equal rights for women? It's like they've already got them. It's just about you just thinking that way. This is about you giving everyone in your life a pass. This is about you becoming someone who can be cowed with mere words. That's what it's always been about. It's like the enemy we found ourselves up against are like, in their own minds, magic sorcerers. Did you see that thing the other day with AOC where she's talking to that witness against Biden? There was a clip went round and she keeps repeating it. Have you witnessed Joe Biden commit a crime? Yes or no? It's like, there's a bit more to it than that. She's yes or no? So he says, yes. And then he starts answering the question, a similar criminal conspiracy, It's a thing. It's a crime. And it's a big crime, depending on who you are and what you're conspiring to do. If you're two people in a pub talking about an insurance scam, that's a conspiracy. But if you're a president of the United States in a room talking with a lot of guys who aim to make some money on some inside information, that's a criminal conspiracy. That's big style. So he's trying to explain this, and she says, none of this jargon, yes or no. And it was like as if she thought her being so powerful in just simply repeating the question and just pestering the guy like a child, right, would somehow make him crack under pressure and wilt. Because to her, the only acceptable answer to that question was no. And she seemed to think that she could actually get this answer from him with the power of her words and mind and will. And it's an absurd thing to see. You look at it and it's like, has this been deceptively edited together just to make her look stupid? And it's like, it doesn't have to be. It's like the magical thinking that's at play in the left is fucking staggering as to where it's, I'll use the power of my will and emotions to make, as if they can sort of reach out with the force. And you see these people scream and shout. And it's like, this isn't working, love. In your mind, because you can break people with your words because you think like that, like you're a bit of a witch. And it doesn't work. It's like, what else you got? So they just try again, try again, and try again. So that's what we're up against with this repetition. It's like they know full well it's bullshit, but it enables them. The political correctness crap is in essence a shield, and it also means you've got a telephone number you can ring if you ever need the assistance of the boss, the man, the government. Number one weapon of any nature of criminal these days is to set the state on people as a weapon. Knowing the right things to say. Well, what are the right things to say nowadays? And everyone who's in this knows it. They just do it. It's just the thing they reach for. It's like, well, once upon a time, people might reach for threats or violence. Now they reach for pronouns. Now they reach for labels. Now they reach for rights. Now they reach for privileges. Now they reach for discrimination. They know, they're in on it. It's like those who've been trying to reason the way past the left, it's like, you haven't got a fucking clue that there are those in the world live by that shit, and it empowers them because they've given themselves a license to bully, and in that they demonize and they treat people really badly. But unfortunately, the law is on their side, so it's a matter of, yeah, good luck complaining about me against you. You being, you know, we can make the cases to say that you're a bit sexist, aren't you? You know, you're always off on the wrong foot, and that's what the world's been for years. You're always at a disadvantage because of all the individuals who've decided, rah, let's join in with this scam. At every level of the fucking game. Walk is a scam, and everyone who takes part in it knows that it is. It's like, now who you're dealing with, you're thinking people are brainwashed and stupid, and it's like, no, they're ruthless and cunning, dishonest, and them are your opponents. And they reach for the same old tired rhetoric of the left, understanding this always gets them going. Let's give them some of this. It's like, I think Lindsay's the only one who takes the left as seriously as you ought to take them, by the way, as, oh, they've, you guys at the moment go around thinking you've won, you know, and looking to talk up, like, bestowing rules and values, and it's a matter of, this has been tried before. The generation before woke tried this, certainly in the United States. It's like, did you hear the sort of discourse that came from that sex mouse like 25 years ago, when a lot of them weren't engaged in politics, they didn't have anyone to unite behind, but they ostensibly supported Bush in his wars in the Middle East. And you had it where they were end of days accelerationists in the United States, in that core of people. End of days accelerationists were a thing 25 years ago. It's like, do you think they may have like never gone away? You think they may still be around? Do you think those fucking crazy people who see everything as a sign of the end, do you think they might be getting any clues? Any more clues that, you know, the end may be upon us? It's like, for fuck's sake, it's like Christian nationalism. It's like, when you beat, right, the ostensible screaming left, right, you don't know who those people are. You can make a lot of assumptions about them, but they're, again, people with certain sensibilities that make them not think and behave like emotional fucking idiots. That, in essence, it's the mask slips, you get to find the person that you usually deal with, what they really like when the mask slips. And the way of seeing a mask slip is to identify a sensibility and hit it fucking hard. You can't teach this, people. I've tried on many occasions. Whereas there's been people I thought a lot of and put it to them as to say, you got a gaping weakness in your game, sir. Well, what's that? I just have to utter a single word, and I know that you're going to stop being a rational person, stop listening, and then go off probably into some rant and become very emotional. And you'll, you know, turn on me. What are you talking about? Well, Jews, and then bang, they just go off, boom. 5 minutes later, it'd be like, right, shut up now. Shut up? Do you not remember how this conversation started? And they don't have a clue. Did you not remember when I said that you've got a weakness in your game as to when someone says Jews, you become just neurotic and a psychopath and start ranting like a maniac? What are you talking about? And it'd be a matter of that. It's like you get people, they can't hold something. They can't hold a word like a concept, as to say. Something that's offensive to say as to word. The word itself, people are so hung up on, hearing things, and like prudish old women. Talk about anything going on with Dick, but you talk about something real, and they're like, oh no, he can't talk about that. Again, sensibilities. You touch the right words, you press the right buttons, and that person who you think is normally reasonable suddenly becomes an absolute fucking dickhead. And start coming forth with all kinds of sort of dumbass collectivist fucking tub thumping ideas as to how to fix everything, and it's like, oh fuck. It's like you're no use when you're like that. So it's for years going around me testing people for it. Can we have a conversation here where I don't just if I say a buzzword, it doesn't make the alarm go off. It's like, can you have a conversation about something without suddenly, when something that you're sensitive about gets brought up? Because once people understand that you've got sensibilities, that's the end of you. Your old mates in the left, your old mates in the left have been fantastic, even though they've morphed into something else. But for years, been fantastic at exposing charlatans by finding out their weaknesses, finding out the dirty secrets. They're still the best at it. They're still the ones who are like, oh, you come across purer than pure. Let's go and find out what the truth is about you, because you, sir, seem too good to be true. Why? Because you're mouthing off like you're Apollo. You're mouthing off like John the Baptist might. So let's go and find out what's going on, because you're playing the oldest game, the oldest grift that there is. Everyone thinking better of you, so you can get away with murder. And when someone says he's done a murder, they say, no, you must be lying, he'd never do that. It's like the oldest form of armour from human eyes and imaginations is the old trad card. So when the trad card gets played, the left, who were in essence created by these fake traditionalists, we had fucking generations of them in public life. The more pious one would proclaim themselves in the world of celebrity and politics was usually a precursor to exposure of some absolute terrible criminal fucking weird bullshit. A song and shout of piety and all being best buddies with our man God. You'd be amazed how many people have been wrong-uns, and high-profile wrong-uns who've been a big mate of the bishop. Like Jimmy Savile, he was someone who's, church every day, massive Christian believer. And it'd be his God seemed to allow for his behaviour without any real visible punishment. And he was devout, absolutely devout, always hanging around with the top knobs at the church and donating to the charities. And it's like, this guy's been a wide open, at large, like nasty, bullying pimp, picking on younger women, or else just people who he knew. Well, if he knew he could get away with it, he'd have to do it. That were his peccadillo. I mean, a wrong 'un. He wrapped himself in the armour of the church and the state, and no one really talked much about him until he was dead. He had so much influence over the establishment. So it's like you look at a fine upstanding figure like that, where it would have been unthinkable for many in this country. You mean that lovely fella, a bit cheeky, did all that stuff for charity? Yep. The man had been grassed on 1,000 times, and everyone said, "Who do you think you are talking like that?" No one would believe it true, and he knew it. And he used to re-traumatize his victims with that understanding, that absolute knowledge that no one's ever going to believe them over him. And he was winking him. So you do it. See how good I am. It's like that is the game. It's like that is the way to play. So it's like you have to accept that this anything that rises up, it becomes a bandwagon. There was no. It's like in some regards, what is the ostensible sort of the American emerging right, as you call themselves. They were never really designed to be hijacked by the right. It's just that's the only home they could find. The correct place for most of the long-term agitators in the United States, and I've put people in the Alex Jones category, the man's world famous. He was just anti-government. He didn't have any loyalties in the parties, none. And it's like there's an uneasy alliance between what should be the left, or the remnant of what would be the old left, which is certainly what Alex Jones is. In my generation. You have to remember the anti-war movement once upon a time was a big piece of the machinery of the left. Seeing people don't get treated like shit. That was like everyone treated like shit, like fucking sending people down into extremely dangerous jobs and stuff like that. It was the left who dealt with all that. That's their thing. Well, they'd abandon that and they become the globalists. And they cut across all parties. And this has been known. Anyone who's really paying attention has known this for 30 years. But there's people got on all sides have got utopian notions of more or less more control than anything else. The idea of control. And in their very nature, elitist. I'd use the word narcissistic because then it could get through to your head that you don't have to be an elite to be an elitist, to think yourself better than everyone else. Now, you're entitled to think you're better than everyone else, but to put your finger on the scale because you deserve to win, that's a little bit different, isn't it? That's imposing yourself or forcing your will on others. It's like in those minds of people who think in terms of power without any real notion as to how it's earned, or it was traditionally harnessed, which was something more like someone on the internet as opposed to somebody becoming a candidate for the Labour Party and obtaining power. I mean, it's like, wow, it's a lot easier to say the right things and work your way up the Labour Party and have gone to the right schools and know the right people. Oh, I can vote for him. Oh, I can vote for him. Oh, yes, send that idiot. A lot easier to move up that than it would be to build up a YouTube following of even just a few thousand. So that the game of getting a YouTube following is closer to what Spartacus did than joining a socialist party. Truth to power, rah, rah, rah. So in this imaginary war, it's like one thing that's happened, and it's obvious, it's not being talked about in the right words. You've got people who in their own ways, in the term, by way of psychological warfare and influence, the same thing, propaganda. You have people on the internet who are warlords. They can sway a great deal of people with them, but only if the message is or true enough. And it's a matter of most of these people who've got this power of influence abuse it, and then there are others that don't. And I think everyone, right, who's playing the game of not recognising that the left are far more dangerous than you realise, and definitely communicating in cahoots with each other but don't broadcast it in the wide open like everyone else does. And that the true enemy is actually a mindset that's derived from, really, from just human narcissism. It's just what ends up happening to people who've been taught certain lessons in life, taught certain understandings at a young age that they just can't get away from, because what the honest psychologist, and there's not so many of those around, they're all politically motivated, might say, you've abused this kid and conditioned him. In the eyes of the sort of elite classes, it's like, oh no, you're letting him do what he wants to. You're letting him shine. He's a talented, he's a special boy. So all kids are special, and they all act out if you don't look after them properly. There's a problem with the classes of people who've got the money to get people to raise their children, end up unparenting their children, and children and parent become alienated. We've got generations of alienated rich kids. Generations of them. I'm not going to name any, you just think of 5 alienated rich kids in a very, very bad situation who were raised by the help, they were not proper, they were not parented. They never had the chance of a normal life, most people in that class of people. And as kids, they didn't get a say. And they've been poorly protected, they've been poorly looked after, but those who raised them, if you were to say to them, you failed at parenting, they'd be like, how dare you? So yeah, but you've got hypersensitive kids that you've got the ability to destroy, who you endlessly appease. It's my generation, it's my generation's kids that are a real problem. They've learned tricks, they've learned about power. Would you start banging on the trans drum or the radical feminist drum if there wasn't something in it for you? If you didn't get to sort of control a situation? If you didn't get to be the one to say, excuse me, but you can't say that. You don't think there's people around who want that job? All you've got to do is learn the words. And you can become that dick. You can become someone who's, a child, able to set the moral tone to whatever they think is necessary by using the magic words, as to say, don't you think that's a little bit racist? And as we've seen a generation rise up, we've seen more and more and more and more. It was once upon a time when people used to say, I say it a lot, the race card, because that's what it is. It's a card, it's a tactic. I've been saying that the race card is just a flat out tactic for what people do when they're annoyed. How they counter. What you reach for when you're annoyed. I reach for harsh words, but I haven't got no race card. If I had one, do you think I might use it? Although I've kind of got one now, I could say, who do you think you're talking to? I'm registered disabled, don't you know? That's my card. I've got a blue card. That means I can just park pretty much anywhere. Really, pretty much anywhere. Leave the bastard outside a train station, get away with it. But it's like, sorry, it's me being all hypocritical, like, hey, you might say this, but you'll claim the rights of a disabled person. It's like, you bet your ass I can't walk very far. Don't know about you, but I don't like the chances of coming unstuck in public and getting picked up in an ambulance. Next thing you know, someone's taking a photo and you're on fucking Facebook and they're like, oh, God bless you, and you're getting fucking all kinds of people interested in your business. I don't want that, and that's what you're on the risk of when you've got my condition. Going to keep things on the low down. But it's like, they're not fighting for all black people when they decide to throw in that. Oh, well, so you like that, are you? Oh, are you? Every single, as you've learned from me over the years, where you can, you lot, you know, very ambiguous. I've learned all that language in the past by people who would play the "you're racist" game, because that's what they do. They don't call you flat out racist. First, they imply it to try to get a reaction. People not understanding that in the moment, that game is the real game. It's not about who fucking where you vote on, which way you vote in 4 years. No, it's about who wins this moment. And it's like you can end up living your life not realising it, but you're being thrown down on all the time and you're cowarding. You're a coward every time. You're submitting. You're submitting to arbitrary authority based on race, sex and gender. And that's what you've been trained to do. And there's people who have enforced this. And those who actually toe the line, they don't respect you for it. They just think nothing of you. So. But then you will always find them amongst them as I'm going to get him in trouble. I'm going to get him in trouble. Whereas suddenly grassing to the authorities has become the ultimate weapon. Something that once upon a time get you in so much trouble that it wouldn't be worth doing because of the way in which you would die. Right? In real terms. You don't grass on people. They do. The authorities in this country are a missile you can send against your enemies who've hurt your feelings or people in your imagination you decide you don't like. To fuck with the day. I'd never dream of doing that. No, it'd be like, no. I'd never dream of doing that to anyone, just sending the, he's hurt my feelings, go and sort him out, I think he might be a terrorist. Really? I'd expect to be arrested for like perverting the course of justice and actually see a few nights in jail for that. But no, they don't seem to have the time for that, because if they started doing people for that, that's all they'd be doing. But it's the failure to understand the enemy, which is the woke right problem. They're blind. When you've identified a group of people who are in that way, ego, narcissists, omnipotent, omniscient, they're slow learners. They're fucking slow learners because they think they've already thought of it all, and it's like, no, you're being tricked. Those you're up against, they know you're going to react like this. They know you're going to kind of rest on your laurels at this stage of the game, and you're going to try and consolidate. And as you try and consolidate, you're going to start absorbing a load of fucking scum. People they know they can control. Not that they own them, not that they're allied to them, that they know they can control because they've found their sensibilities, they've found the buttons they can press to make them stupid, to change them when they need to change them. And it's like you're just having them foisted upon you. People have made themselves, they've jumped from one sphere to another. All these comedians who've jumped into the political sphere, and it's a matter of, you come a long way for laughs, aren't you, lads? It's like, if you're going to win, it's like, do you not want to play for everything? Do you not want to play for all the marbles? Or do you just want to be in a state of like cultural civil war and quagmire for the rest of our lifetimes? And in the meantime, those who do things get to just continue to do whatever the fuck they're like while we're bickering as to who are you. Too late for that. That's why people vote for Trump. They know it's too late for that, but as soon as you get yourself a nose over the line, suddenly it's that you're all between you, thinking you're an instrumental part of the victory, and thinking, oh, I need to find, we need a structure here, we need a pecking order, we need a group or an elite, and Trump hasn't helped that. I mean, fair enough giving a job to Dan Bongino. He seems to me like someone who he can carry himself in a conversation and knows a lot of shit. but then sending for Judge Janine Pirro, who someone I used to actually, for a time, my autoplay on YouTube used to just deliver me a lot of Fox News. And I used to end up like listening to Judge Janine Pirro's bit, like probably every week or something, where she does a monologue. This is my statement, where she says her bit for the week, and it's a matter of, yeah, she talks a lot of sense, but it's a matter of, isn't she a member of a great big elite? Isn't she a member of a showbiz elite? Isn't she a member of an existing sort of political class, an existing gang? It says it hasn't taken much for her because she has to stand by certain laws. It's like suddenly when the Democrats become a little bit more sloppy and a little bit more in their way criminal, they seem to raise the ire of lawyers and judges. Lawyers and judges, the ones who aren't activists, the ones who've been pushed through the door, I mean, they find their way onto YouTube, don't they? Judge Joe Brown, a good one. He's the best one. But Judge Janine Pirro, another one. There's a few of them. Judge Andrew Napolitano, who I think he probably means well, but I find him to be insufferable. He's like he's already made his mind up about so many different things. He ain't listening to nobody. So he'd be a man on the right who's actually a man on the left, because he shares what has now become the patterns of behaviour. The narcissistic behaviour amongst the left became absolutely undeniably what was driving it, because it was all reaction as well. So it was all emotional, alloplastic, and what you're seeing on the internet is just a measure of the worst moments of people being triggered. There'd be alloplastic emotional defence mechanisms where the internet's made an outlet for, so you can kind of scream out in the fucking dark. In that moment of my sensibilities have been triggered, you're threatening a structure that allows me to do what the fuck I want. You're taking away my magical powers to make the world bend to my will. What's going on with the feminists? What's going on with the race baiters? They're afraid of the power being threatened, or people not believing it anymore, which was the bigger threat. When it stops working, they've nothing left. Nothing other than violence. But saying that, it's like people of that nature who reach for weapons. You take their weapons from them and they just reach for other kinds of weapons. You'll never get rid of them. But it's like there's a fucking mug nature that comes with that walk right, tradcast sort of position you put yourself in. And it's that these guys are all ever so slightly in their way immoral, right? And have got these kind of sensibilities and loyalties as to where they're pretty much an organised clique. The people who James Lindsay's pointing to, they're an organised clique. They're a network. And there are certain people who are in the clique, and there are certain people who aren't in the clique. But everyone knows who the clique is. The old YouTube and X backslapping, oh, that he's a good lad, my old mate. He's a good lad. Really, strangers who ostensibly have decided that they're allies and therefore become fast friends. These fast friends networks of what they were, which were marriages of convenience. These relationships now have been going on for sometimes maybe 10, 20 years amongst these guys who were influencers. The old secret societies that David Icke used to fucking cry about, he pretty much set about building one. If there's an Illuminati force operating in the world, it's that clique. Because they operate just like it. It's like a high priesthood amongst this right-wing thing. And there's been a matter of, there's been like disposable cult leaders having a bit of a stint and then buggering off and then having a stint and buggering off. Where did Stefan Molyneux run to? Can be found somewhere, but did he take his audience with him? You've never witnessed nasty, cult-like, vicious, vindictive behaviour like what used to come from members of the his like free domain radio, the people who were sceptical of anything that Steph said, or they didn't like the cut of your jib for one reason or another, as you didn't go along with what Steph said and you weren't obeying the non-aggression principle. They were horrible people. You know what I mean? Like nasty fucking lying piece of shit. And this is free domain radio, the home for all the intelligent people. It's like, if you don't know that you've created a refuge for people who haven't been winning, who are looking for someone to blame, there's plenty of blame to go around, I'm saying, but they're looking for kinship and comfort where there's none. And you guys have found huge internet audiences of people who are pretty much sat inside all day, and you don't know who your audience is really. Most of your audience are people who've got a lot of time on their hands, and it's a matter of, okay, so why don't you preach to that choir? Why don't you stand up for them? I'd say your audience are 99% fucking poor. 99% almost, marooned. Already isolated. They're a perfect audience to be corralled, controlled, milked. It's like everyone in this, this emerging right scene could be seen to be, really milking the tape, really earning a few quid out of this. They've turned it into a machine for making money. And it's like you've got people who are in the game who are fucking lame and smug, like Tim Pool. He's just got more and more smug over the years and less insightful. Tim Pool. And it's a matter of, he looks over his shoulder at the age of about, 44 or something, Tim Pool, between 40 and 44, because he's one of them lame fucking weirdos of that Occupy. You see, that's how far we've come. Once upon a time, the sort of what would now be seen as the Antifa anarchist end was the only fucking play. There was the only game in town once. And what a set of fucking losers they turned out to be, the old Occupy guys, as to where it's like they were mostly crackpots who did not understand the world. And they asked a question of it, and they made quite an impact in asking questions of it. Because one thing that the old conspiracy broadcast side of the game never actually had was someone who really knew the ins and outs of economics. For years, people had been miseducated about things like money creation. To narrow that kind of thing just down to one element and say, therefore it's corrupt, therefore capitalism. It's like the internet did an incredibly, say, leftists on the internet, like proper commies, did a fucking incredible job miseducating people in the world about money and money creation for 10 years. They didn't have drilled down deep into the poor as to say, you know why you're poor? If you pay me X amount and subscribe to my newsletter, I'm going to teach you why you're poor. Send me $5. It's like the opposition to the mainstream in this world has been fucking weak to non-existent because of who controls basically everyone having basically the low number of owners and newspapers and the like, and limited media that was totally controlled. Now it's not totally controlled, and we've got the internet, and I have my own TV show. I can tell you that the legacy opposition is in essence handpicked. The guys who are still in the game after 20, 25 years, at any stage of the game, they could have just blown the whistle on the whole fucking thing. And they didn't. None of them did. And then, your celebrities who've muttered, the famous people, because they're the ones who matter. You know, once upon a time, you know, there was an entire movement that were going on. It's like, please just get famous people to get involved in politics and things that matter. Please. It's what the world needs. We need people who people have heard of to speak out. And then Twitter gave you exactly that. And they made everything miles worse. As soon as actors and celebrities started having political opinions, they were far fucking crazier than when all of a sudden the clergy had political opinions, which happened a few years before. Celebrities are clueless. There's not too many with a clue. Even the ones who are better, who've seen sense over things like the trans thing. It's like, when the dust settles, it's like J.K. Rowling will be just a massive feminist. She's always been just shitting all over men. She'll just go straight back to the normal game. They'll just migrate straight back to right. Who do we now move for? She found herself, in essence, at the right crusade, to be honest. Do you remember years ago when I used to make videos when Andy used to be about Crossman? Like, I sort of started talking to him and like, he predicted something that was absolutely profound. And he should be somewhere go down in internet history as he made like a long series of videos making the case as to say, you know, the next thing that's coming along is the not transgender. You're missing the wood for the trees. If it's about trans people, but this transgenderism, and he was onto that. He was onto it. He'd isolated it amongst like there's some ambiguous shit when you start reading like old stuff as to where this ambiguity, man and woman, is shown up as this just basically a mind fuck. Just an ancient mind fuck that's, you know, it's effective. And it's like, he was like, this is being brought back from the ancient world, this question or ambiguity of like the in essence the you know, the castrated man, the eunuch. It's like there's a desire for this. It's like this is what's going to come next. This is going to be the next big. Andy was absolutely sure of it. It's like this is going to be the next battle. This is going to be the next thing. Is they're going to push this androgynous, and they're going to sell us as the black woman as the queen of nature. He had that absolutely bang on right, Andy. And it was ages before. You know, nobody had ever credit Andy as to say he was miles in front of everyone else with this, and also as to the purpose of it and what would happen, what it would lead to, how it would be an engine for any kind of social change. It's like anyone who's got a funny ick about, is that a man? Suddenly you've got a problem. You've committed a sin. Andy being all about, they're going to weaponize our natures against us, and that is what the whole trick is, or anyway. They trick us to become monsters that destroy ourselves. And suit everything else, benefit everyone else. Anyone who wants to sell you the trappings of misery, like, you know, the tobacco companies and the brewers, the pharma giants, basically, your life in distress is worth more money to them than you getting along and paying your taxes. So it's like, we can't stand for a changing of the guard and one group of, basically a group of hard leftists who've got no fucking idea. They just, the status quo is something they don't understand, so they're never going to meaningfully change anything. To replace them with in essence, they're opposite numbers who see them as an enemy, to replace them, and then they start to rule and they start to change the law. Good luck sustaining that. Really, good luck. It's like, no, there's got to be a way forward for everybody, hasn't there? excluding like 40% of the voting population of your country is just civil war. And that's what's being set up. An endless quagmire where the bosses get to continue to do whatever they want while the forces who've got easily and within their grasp the power to stop all the bullshit. Forming up as state-loving, rule-setting, anti-woke, which is still woke. And we've got the people for it. We've got the half-blind man who thinks he's a genius. There's fucking loads of them. I'm half smart, but I know I don't know everything, and no, I don't have all the answers, but there are plenty out there who seem to think that they're pretty close. And then when you see this thing where the expertise sort of leaks from like showbiz into politics, it's like, yeah, but it's like you've got it where on the internet, in the influencers, and they all say what ostensible woke right. It's like, what crept in there? If I say this, you see that there a thing the other day that Lindsay put out where Tim Pool were talking about him, and he has to project that Lindsay's a hustler because Tim Pool is a hustler. So whenever he decides to go after someone, he accuses them of being a hustle. Basically, he accuses them of exactly what he's doing, and it's a matter of, oh my God, does Tim Pool not pick up on that projection as to where he's speculating as to what James's motives are? That this must be some kind of ruse or grift, because he knows something that Tim Pool doesn't know and can't actually process because he's blind to it. So Tim Pool's only response is to just mirror, like project. Just mirror onto the guy. Make sort of assumptions. I don't know where news would ever get out about Lindsay's personal life. I thought he'd know better than that. But he implies that his marriage is in trouble and that he's got problems with relatives over all this. And it's like, how do you know this stuff? It's like, where's your crystal ball, Tim? So you're just purely now in the world of make-believe, mind-reading someone who you've not really listened to, because listening to him might make you feel a bit creepy, as to say. Haven't I, whether I knew it or not, taken lots of money to hold a favourable position about Russia? Well, I didn't know she worked for the Russian government. It's like he's a poor judge of character. Proven it. Over and over again, these people on YouTube who are YouTubers who become ostensible friends. They don't know each other. I think that the more they try and collaborate, the more they fall out with each other. That's something that's become true. Shown itself up 1,000 times. People come and go. It's like James is the only person who gets it. He's the only one who understands that you can be playing for a lot more than who controls the fucking, who gets to pass a law, who gets to say they're right for a few years until all the bitterness starts again. When's the next presidential campaign start in earnest? About 18 months' time. Expect that the left as is will morph, knowing that what it's always known, that it's all just a fucking game, it's just a card game, and they'll steal your ground. They will steal your ground to take back control and power. They will steal your ground. We've already seen it starting. People who were tub-thumping leftists for 10 years have now said, I think there's something self-defeating about this woke thing. It's like, really? I think I'd have worked that out on the first week of trying it. Although I used to work in a warehouse where everyone, people's idea of funny there was going up to a person who hadn't spoken to you and saying, who are you? You're not talking to the kids in the street now, you know. You like start on them like it were a fight. And that'd be what I was all rumbling amongst each other, fucking piss funny. As to how good are you at calling somebody out for a fight, and then who do you think and when someone's not talking to you, give it that, who do you think you're talking to, you? And it'd be, all of us do it, and it'd be like, hey, you're getting pretty good at that. Everyone do it. And it'd be, that was the idea of the crack. And it's like, you get it where someone had been already threatened or already challenged to a fight that morning. They're like, oh, you're not challenging everyone to a fight all day, are you? Yeah, me too. So I'm getting a bit sick of it. It gets old. It's like, no, sometimes you come up with a good one. Sometimes you come up with a good one. Sometimes you get the looking down on someone, the condescending tone just perfect, and it's like a really good throwdown. You're like, ooh, that were good. And people are like, good one. And it's like, how do you come back from that? The answer's certainly not violence. The answer is one of the many prearranged comebacks. So, basically, you leave the door open for them to say what they're going to do. And it'd be very funny. So I used to say I've worked in places where, like, big warehouses, where they've banned swearing. Anyone heard using foul and abusive 4-letter words, well, we hear them, there's going to be trouble. They've tried to clean the job up, so in trying to clean it all up, we've all come up with alternate swear words, where we just made up our own, but they'd be very very lurid, descriptive, and very rude. No matter if there was a girl who was a supervisor who worked there, Paula. She was straight out of university, bless her. It's a nice way about her, but she was extremely cruel. Didn't give a fuck, but she had a nice way about her. She walks into office one night and she's like, and so, what's up, Paul? I don't believe it. What's wrong? He says, that stacker driver there, Barry, yeah, he just called me a ricker sniffer. And then he'd be like, everyone starts laughing because that's what everyone's been calling each other all day. You're a ricker sniffer. And we would go, everyone going around calling each other a ricker sniffer, and it would be like, well, they've said that we can't swear anymore, so now we're calling each other a ricker sniffer or a sausage jockey. So we've just basically we've instead of you bastard, fuck you, cunt, and all that sort of fun stuff that we used to say, we've replaced them now with really dirty, pervy, and lurid, sort of almost homophobic slurs against everybody. So you would get it as to where it's like, is that like you'd be on night shift? It's like a microphone to the public address system. It's in the same office as me, but I don't use it. I can though. And it's hard to tell where it's been broadcast from because there's a few places you can do it from, and you get people on the like stacker drivers like Ricker Sniffer over fucking tannoy for the whole fucking place. Everyone's rolling around laughing. It's like that culture that I'm talking about. I'd be like, that's what the world was in like 95, right? And I used to thrive in that culture where everyone was just permanently just winding each other up, coming up with silly things to say to pass the time because we were all fucking warehouse workers. So we'd come up with our own crack. We created our own legends, we had our own jokes, we had our own language, we had our own insults. And it's like it was the culture of the place used to bleed into the pub, where you'd take the language from the place back out with you, and the jokes had come from work, and you're spreading this degenerative sort of culture of what is verbal abuse, very rude verbal abuse for fun. So it's like those people didn't have sensibilities that you could just pick on like that. It'd be seen as such incredible weakness amongst that group for someone to be able to just say a few words to you and have you freaking out. It'd be like, oh, so that's what you like, is it? That's what it is. You would just, the first time you freaked out over nothing, it's like, oh, we found you, we've caught you out. That's what we wanted to know. So you wouldn't rip into people about their dead parents. You'd have a go about them. You'd have a go at them about their choice of, apparel, or something like, well, that hat makes you look like so and so. That was the game, and everyone used to play it all the time. Everybody, and they were all good at giving it back because it was all done in that spirit, as there were people say, banter. Banter, once upon a time in language, was weapon and shield. You could get away with telling someone you were just about ready to kill them because of the tone you said it in. And they'd be like, all right, okay, good joke. But you get your message across. It's like you could banter be a way you can just be sardonic in your tone of voice as to where I'm only joking. Whereas the text message doesn't offer that. So it's like this sort of old training I had as to, look, everyone here, it's like a lot of people come and people go in here, and it's like we keep ourselves to ourselves mostly. And when we engage, this is not about lives and families and feelings. This is about, look, we've got half hour, so we've got to get back on the job. We'd like to have a laugh, and we might want a game of cards, and we might like to tell a joke or two, and have a few cups of coffee and a few smokes, and then be on our way home. But we had a very sort of cowboy stranger approach. Until you worked out somebody wasn't dangerous, right? There was no point being mates with them. There's no point investing anything in them. And that was the test. That's what all that crack stuff is. That's what all that gentle bullying is. All that silliness. It's what it is. It's like, can I trust you to handle yourself and not just be a fucking crazy idiot that starts mouthing off and making trouble? And the gentle crack used to always discover all the dickheads. Used to just discover them. It'd be a matter of, oh, fucking hell, I was just talking about City, and next thing you know, he's fucking screaming and shouting and dickhead. So I can't handle crack, right? And it'd be a matter of this person's never really learned how to behave in the company of men, where I had no choice but to just. I had, a couple of beatings was all it took for me. And it'd be a matter of, there's so many people these days who are just wide open to sort of cutting verbal and being left with a bee in the bonnet for the rest of the day. And that then become, something that it could be, call it something different. Your anger soon becomes... Your anger, as the old emperor used to say, anger makes you powerful. Power is only a notion in the mind. You find an excuse to be angry, because you're into that. You like it. And then you react and seem to think that your reaction to being angry is some kind of, internet gold. You're... fighting the good fight against the powers of chaos and evil. we're in a system of a joke as to where we've now got sort of a leadership that is so far from understanding the minds. They're just not interested in finding out. They've already decided what people are a long time ago, and I'm somebody who put it to them, right? The sort of notions that you had that you work by, all your Fabian society horse shit, is proven to be exactly that. You don't know it, but guys like Saul Alinsky, who thought he was a genius of of a political disruption and dirty tricks, was just giving away the secrets of his personality. As to that's the sort of thing that he thought was, he wouldn't do it himself because he wouldn't have the guts. But all he was doing was showing the world his heart as to what his nature was, as to what he was. And it's like, this guy's just a cruel, mean-spirited narcissist who would think people fools for believing him. Spit on them. Rules for radicals. And it's a matter of, no, that's a book about psychology. It's like, think of that as a statement by your ideological enemies as to the lengths they would go to defeat you. And it'd be really a treatise on the nature of your enemy, and your enemy is a narcissist. How do you end up one of them? Betrayal is what makes you a narcissist. There's many people in the past who've wrongly attributed it with all kinds of different things, even breeding, genetics. I don't see that's the case. I see that you've learned some important lessons about power when you were young and learned how to carve out your own bit yourself. Really, really does depend on the company you keep. You don't have to end up that way, but I think you can be corrupted. It's malignant. I'd say that the bug of that narcissism, I think I caught it from the child who broke my Scalextric, so I couldn't have one. I think that's where the corruption got into me, as to where I in that moment learned about stealing, learned about making people suffer, learned about destroying someone else's property and hurting them like that. Learned about it all from that one incident. What did he do? He broke the little electrodes off the bottom of all my cars so they didn't run anymore. Did I live in a household where there was money around to repair or replace something like that? No. Just ruined. And it's like, and how did this happen? It was done by that little kid who you foisted upon me, who's a child of one of your fucking mates from the pub. And it turns out it's not his. He thought it was at the time, but we've learned since that he certainly isn't or wasn't. Like, you let shit in our house, and because I had something he didn't, he had to destroy it. I think that's where I learned about these games. Perfectly demonstrated in the cruelty of children. And it's like, those who haven't been exposed to it, those who haven't in essence got the disease of it, will never come to understand it. You need it. To get a picture of what the world is, you need a healthy dose of narcissism. I'm absolutely sure of it. I think it's one element that you need. You need to understand that whole side of the equation. You have to. The reason why people can't destroy narcissists with words on the internet is because they're misdiagnosing people as narcissists when they're not. They're not as fragile as the psychologists say they are. Nowhere near. So it's like this notion that you could take them out with sort of mere words and endlessly harassing them and, in essence, casting spells on them to infect their imagination. It only works, there's only certain tactics of that actually work, and it won't give you the outcome that you want. It'll just provoke a reaction which could be favourable, but could also backfire badly. The reason why the left, right, have made no impression on Trump, even with the lawyers and the court cases, is because in their minds they've already diagnosed him, as sometimes I've done with people, but I'm usually right, the flakes, aren't I, when I throw it around. They've diagnosed him as being a sociopath. They've diagnosed him as being a narcissist. And they've decided, okay, all right, okay, well, the world's pretty good at controlling those people. We know about them. They're our bread and butter. We can emotionally manipulate them. Make them worse. I know this. They know this. But when it doesn't work, it's because you've misdiagnosed what the guy's suffering from, or what the weakness he's got. It's like he hasn't got the weakness that you describe. Your guide rail, using psychology to bring down, say, anyone who you've decided, you go after. If it works, it's like the witch test. To witch hunt someone on the internet, go after them and bring people out to come after them and stuff like that. It only really works on people who are weak in that regard. You try it on certain others and they'll just react very badly to it and go after you. It's like some of them that are the weaker ones, the ones who are certainly are afflicted, and to stick the label on them is to say his imagination will take him out in the end. His self-destructive nature will do him in. That's to stick the proper narc on, and then it's a matter of once that understanding's on, anything works on them. You can just wind them up to your heart's content. But if you're wrong, and what you've found is someone who's just an experienced person who's learned all the right lessons and retains a knowledge of manipulation that means that they will send something on that wavelength, if you like that sense of surety I've got, where I'm confident about what I'm on about. Like, I'm telling you, people see that and they're like, ooh, fake. And mine isn't, but fake. They'll say it's fake. And they'll be looking for chinks in it, and they're like, what, the con men of the world, the car salesmen of the world, the pimps of the world, the thieves of the world. They have to make that association, and then they reach for the tactics that best work to flush them out, and they do work. But if it's not working on your target, you're wrong about your diagnosis. Just saying. So it's a tactic to go after someone who you want to kind of, you want to put him off his game by sending him a lot of mean messages as to, we'll get in his head. Magical thinker. If he's crazy, he's suggestible. If he's gone that way, well, if other people have got in his head and turned him spy, we can do the same. And it works. But only on narcs. And it's like, James is far too smart to have ever fallen into a trap like that. He would have never taken the first step on the path if he was limited to black and white thinking. It's like, that's the notions being levelled at him from non-experts on the subject of narcissism is, wow, really the wrong set of tactics to use. Totally, because all you're actually doing to him is proving to him his hypothesis correct. So you're in essence making him sure of his position and giving him more examples of your sort of clannish, reactionary, hyper-emotional, triggered, almost involuntary behaviour that he's been able to tinker. be glad, you know, that he's a good guy and that he doesn't hate loads of people, because with his now knowledge of what works, right, he could be a real disaster area for whoever he decided to call his enemy. But he's not in it for that, is he? Lindsay wants to win the big prize. He wants to be the fella who unlocks the whole fucking thing. He's probably the nearest to it. It's not such a big deal, you know, when you get to the very top of understanding. That's where he's at. He's close to it, but it's like he doesn't have the same what's the word? He hasn't had the same path of suffering as some others have. But it's like, when it comes to it at the end, it's a matter of you just come to realise it's a matter of, who am I working for? What is this about? As to where that guy certainly identified himself in this pantheon, it says that the coming of the fella who can see, right? That's what we're in for. That's the best case scenario of all the old biblical superstitions and stories. If someone comes along who can see. The AI does say that I'm a disassociated but nonetheless valid high seer of the Habsburg dynasty who should be working in the financial sector. And I see it because it's probably my job. And it'd be a matter of suddenly you come to an understanding that God becomes an incredible ally. But we never mention. I mean, we never mention that. I say the quiet part out loud because of my sort of John the Baptist type stares. I say the quiet part out loud. I'm allowed to be crazy. I'm allowed to be seen as being, well, this guy's a bit mysterious and strange. I'm allowed to be that. But it's a matter of James. Oh no, he's like, yeah, he's the new blood. James is the new blood. He's the thinker. He's the judge. He's the player. He's like player one, number one, player one. James is player one, and the first thing James is questioning is this alliance real? And it's a matter of, how can it not be off on the wrong foot, bearing in mind the sick place in which it was created? And it's like, how can it not be? In its model, as how it functions, with one voice and many listeners and a bit of feedback, how can it not be many collective little tyrannies? All these influencers, and it be everyone's channel be their own little money spinner, and for them to kind of go to war with each other ostensibly, it's bad for business, and they're that smart to know that. It's like Ben Shapiro fell into. I used to listen to Ben Shapiro. I used to think sometimes he was thoughtful, but a few things hit him sideways that turned him into a fucking idiot quite quickly over the last year. Just saying, I don't listen to him anymore. The old Israel becoming a hot potato thing, suddenly he's got another weight on his fucking mind. What's that? His sensibilities get triggered, and then he's suddenly, therefore, no longer a fucking seer. No longer has he got an eye for anything now, because he's now stuck on the Israel monocle. That's a real problem, that, you know. Even amongst the very best of. You bring it up to me, I don't give a fuck. know a lot about it. I know better than to choose a side. I knew he was going to win. I knew he was going to win. I knew he was going to win from the absolute start of it. I had no doubt as to how the end was going to turn out. But I couldn't put hand on heart say I have much support for Israel. I do, in a degree, I respect the Israelis and in some regards admire them. In the sense of, you know, someone had to do the hard work and dying and killing of keeping those families and people safe, ultimately. It's like that sort of togetherness they've got, in essence, that endures. As to where the place can look politically chaotic, but as soon as them rockets start landing, it's a matter of the old knowing, the old knowledge kicks in. And it's like those in the world who've seen that, saw that attack of October the 7th as kind of a personal affront because they strongly identify with this kinship and spirit of this. It's no less complicated an issue for them as it is for my good self. It's no less a mixed sort of state of affairs. But they have signed up to be on to stick and stay and hold a position to be on Team Israel, knowing, I'm sorry to say, knowing that if any of the neighbours were to attempt direct conflict with them, they would lose everything they sent. And that's always been the truth of the matter. And there isn't a great will to do anything about Israel other than it's a handy political football for everybody who opposes them or even supports them. It's an almighty source of work. And it's a problem that's been inherited by now practically everyone who's alive on the earth. None of our making. But it's like we could move a lot closer to resolving said problem if we were to admit that. And remind people of it over and over and over again, as to say, people are born into this war. I was in my way born into a war. I was born into the, what would you call it? I don't think, well, what did we call it? We call it now the Troubles. I was born into the Anglo-Irish Civil War. People of my name and even the accent is not a giveaway. Background, not to be trusted. Yeah, they used to like keep us all in one place, us paddies, as kids. I know what it has. I know what it is to be a kid listening to older people talk absolute fucking nonsense about the rights and wrongs of things. And these rights and wrongs of things are things that are no longer challenged. You've got people operating with sometimes ideals, systems of ideals that have been incorporated into them by strangers or fucking crazy uncles that they've lived by, and it's never been questioned. It's like you get to people young to turn them into fucking bigoted fools. I mean, fuck, they breed it now. It's like, if you can't see that there's a real zeal in those who ostensibly call themselves the right to stop a more expansive conversation about the real, because we've got to be if we're going to make the best of things, we've got to admit to what the problems are that underpin all of it, and you've got to have a wider conversation than just concentrating on one group or another group. It's like the problems that this country faces are not unsurmountable. This country's not fucked. But there's plenty of people who believe it is, and they've just, in essence, they've stopped thinking about it. But they just write off. They do it in the language you talk about, and the answer to everything just becomes, oh well, this country's fucked anyway. It'd be a matter of, no, it's not. Not yet. So it's more people and systems are more durable than you might think. There's fucking four, can I tell you, say the old fraternity of what is now the right, the disease that's in the that's found its way into the right, that's made it go collectivist and tribal, just by a different set of rules. It's like at its core, it's got. Say guys like, I'm not trying to pin the whole thing on him, but guys like Alex Jones, you've got Alex Jones has been predicting the end of things since he started. He's been like, we're just around the next big bad thing's just around the corner, and then just the way the nature of the world spins is just turned out to be right, as to where it does not take a prophet to say very soon we're going to have ourselves an issue with domestic terrorism in this country. Doesn't make me a genius. There's the least genius observation that I've made. I make a lot of videos that don't put out because these are my own thing mostly. But I'm sure in that last video I made where I was talking about the situation with kicking all of those schizophrenics off a pip, was that it wouldn't take too long before those people do what humans do and rediscover fire. As to where those with nothing to lose and a mind for revenge and have decided who their enemy is, they might turn up at the Prime Minister's house and decide to burn it to the fucking ground, or do what they think might burn it to the fucking ground. And it be, there's a kid been arrested in London, 21 years old. I think we can already establish what we're going to hear about the kid, just from, there's no details out, not that I last saw, but just all they told us, 21-year-old kid. And it'd be a matter of, he's a 21-year-old kid. It's like, find yourself one that's a version of him that's 30 years older, and think what lengths he might go to if was to take an opportunity of burning someone's house to the ground, just how effective someone who's been away and fucking studied it might be. And it doesn't take much. Freely available information, an elementary, if you watch a few videos on thermodynamics, the ins and outs of fire, as to where I've been saying it actually for a few years. It's when the lunatics discover Fred Dibner. The landscape of the country might change. The skyscape of this country might change. As to when I heard that story the other day, as to where someone apparently tried to set 2 of his residences on fire. Like, that's greedy. To fail at both as well is like, oh God, you weren't prepared for that, were you, son? But it's like, you went through with it, you gave it a fucking go, and it'd be a matter of, that's where it's dangerous. There's plenty of people probably in the world ideating, because you've upset a lot of people who ideate, think too much about things. Plot and scheme. I think that's foreshadow of something to come. It's like, next you hear of someone's house being set on fire, the fucker will go up. I am not going to tell people how to more effectively burn houses to the ground. That's what Google's for. Seriously, it's like, it's a very, very commonly understood information as to how very hot things work. It's a knowledge that's almost lost, though, in the modern world. Someone who knows about metallurgy. I used to know a lot of people who were welders and stuff. It used to be everywhere, and they'd be telling you about, heat, you know, real heat. Talking about it. Certain understandings of fucking high heat. Those guys, you know, who had understandings of high heat was, remember the old 9/11 thing? I was shocked to my fucking core, you know, when I found out when I saw the loose change thing back in like 2003, that, you know, this might have been a thing. Do you know the whole thing? Do you know what it actually amounts to? That the media, whatever it was that happened, the media lied about it, established a narrative that made no sense, and then used it as a means to, and then got into bed with the government, who then used it as a means to do what they intended to do anyway. And they were in essence waiting for an excuse for launching a multi-pronged and then taking two very important strategic places, i.e. Afghanistan, Iraq. They'd long since let it be known that they'd been, for a very long time, they'd been working on a campaign to erode trust in Iraq and to make them poorer systematically, as to where, you know, you down talk the people, demonize them a bit, and then when you start to wave the flag and say we're going to liberate this country, you can just go and steal it, can't you? Which is what happened. So it's like 9/11 was used as an excuse to launch the war on terror, and in essence, then that became a global craze, and another incredible money spinner that turned some millionaires into billionaires. It's an interesting case that encapsulates what the Iraq war was, and you can read about it. Go and look it up. There was a couple of guys went to prison for selling the MOD what were called bomb detection devices, right? That they were cheap, and they appeared to work, and they were used as a sort of quick to deploy bomb detection devices. So they were putting them in marketplaces, car parks, right? And there were no technology inside them. They were in essence a dowsing rod, and the fucking MOD bought them, and terrorist bombers got through. Suicide bombers walked right through them and killed people. But the MOD bought a product based on the flimsiest of magic, and paid millions and millions for it. And actually these guys got treated as if they'd made some kind of technological breakthrough, and they were dowsing rods. You know, a thing where you can get a couple of there's loads of ways of doing it. You just get a couple of metal rods, put them in a toilet roll would do, wouldn't it? It's just something that separates them from your grip and let them drift, and you start walking with them, and every now and then they will find something magnetic for one reason or another, or they'll find something that's a magnetic reaction. So you can sometimes find water with dowsing rods, but you need magnetizable metal in order for a dowsing rod to work. So it's like that's what they'd done. They'd created dowsing rods, so they'd just taken rods of magnetizable metal. Now, every now and then, an electrical device will go through one of them, and it will make it move. But only every now and then. So there is some a tiny sort of holistic understanding that says, you know, the technology of the rods. You've picked up a magnetic field, well done. But there's loads of things that'll generate one. And moving water does. So you might find water with it, but anything else you find with it is, for one reason or another, it's an electromagnetic field. So it's like, to things that are battery powered, you know, quite strong likelihood it would detect one of those, but not guaranteed. If it was something that was like battery backed up, a very small electronic device like a digital watch, absolutely no fucking chance of picking that up. But the MOD bought thousands of them and give these guys a multi-million-pound contract for their bomb sniffing technology, and people died because of it, because they trusted it. People died because there were other measures they could take, if you know, to counter that threat. But because they'd spent money on a gizmo, they were thinking they had it covered. Right up until someone proved it doesn't work by killing people with a suicide bomb. That's what the Iraq War was. I saw that snippet that they were passing around of that Trump speech as to where it's like the nation builders have destroyed more countries than they've built. And they've intervened in countries that were more complex than they understood. Destabilized, complicated countries. That's actually, in the two sentences, I've ruined it, paraphrasing. But in them two sentences, Trump summed up the history of the United States' involvement in the wider world since World War II. That's a fair assessment. It's actually a fair assessment of the last 70 years. Fair to say. Regime change led presidencies, Bush, Obama, never learned. Just, what about the repercussions? Oh, well, we'll deal with that when they come up. The more interested, when they fuck up, when they'll destabilise a country and then be like, you've just handed the country over to the criminals, we can't deal with these people, they'll just now tell us what we want to hear and try and get some money off us, they're going to shake us down, we've fucked this. It then becomes, right, who do we blame? They're not bothered about the fact that they fucked it, they can just abandon the place. But then it's a matter of who's to blame? Who've we got to hang out to dry for this? And that's all we're interested in. Last, I think, atrocity, famous one, that Michael Bay made a film about, is it called that 14 Hours or something it's called? About, it's like, we armed some very bad people in that country, and it would be useful for us if you can get what's left of our weapons back. But we don't want people knowing about how much aid we gave them. Right? So, we're not going to evacuate you. We need you to operate until like the last minute. And arrangements will be made. It's like, the bad guys know where you are. You arm them. They're coming. And it's like, in that battle, it's like, watch that, that is a movie. That is a movie. That's a 3-hour movie that depicts the 24 hours. And the guys who worked on the movie, they're like, Michael Bay fell in with these guys who were on this. They fucking abandoned us. Someone high up in the US government thought if we died, it would probably help cover it up. It's like you've had the US ambassador, right, to Libya. This is not funny. Beaten and sodomized to death. What? Yeah. Yeah, they fucked him. They made an absolute mess and a fucking show of that guy. Same way as they did to Gaddafi, they've sodomized him as well, didn't they? When they caught him. Yeah, they gave the same treatment to the US ambassador, and it's a matter of, what's the big idea here? You've just pulled these people out and left them, and it's a matter of, you're expendable. They've decided you can die. And it's like, was it 4 or 5 mercenaries, experienced guys who were just private security working for the CIA and the embassy. It's like they were guards. They're looking at it, it's like, where is everybody? This place is undefended. There's only the gates fucking stopping everyone in the world from turning up here. And they get down there in time to see that, oh fuck, whatever's come to blow this place to fuck and kill everybody, is coming for us next. We better get the fuck back. And it's like that's a movie about like 4 or 5 guys holding a fixed position for 14 hours. All the time with very, very powerful radio transmitters putting distress signals out to anyone who was listening to say things like, could you please just fly over with an F-16 or something? Anything. Just do anything. We're not asking you to fucking give us close air support. It's like, just do anything, please. It's like these guys are not an army. Like, if you can scare them, maybe they'll back off. Please do something. And it's like, nobody. They were just cut off. And there was nothing wrong with their communications. They just decided, the higher ups had decided, suit us for them to die. Really? And it's like, who's that? It's like, it's your Obama presidency. It's like the blame for that's put on Hillary Clinton, but she's not the person with responsibility for that. Not ultimately. It's like they've thrown her under the bus to save Obama where it comes to that. It's all about him, that. Benghazi. That was a fucking scandal, that. It's like these people that you very hurriedly found and armed, they became, because they were then armed and they had muscle and there was no one to quell them, no one to stop them, they sort of migrated, didn't they? They ostensibly became ISIS in the form that we came to know and love them when they were just marauding town to town in vehicles with heavy weapons, just killing the local cops and taking the place. That's them. That's where they came from. And they've got your gear that you gave them. As soon as they put them weapons out, the weapons become the ghosts, don't they? They change hands. You don't have to directly give them to the people who use them against you, but it's like suddenly you've got a gun in your hand and what's that worth? Oh, it's worth some money. There's a thing that's gone on in the world that those who are wise understand. You look at all these high-tech weaponry that's fallen into the hands of warfighters all over the world, Taliban, whatever you want. You know, it's like you see those guys when they assemble, not when they're doing a parade, because they don't do that kind of thing, but when they were then occupying Kabul, when they first when the Americans fled or appeared to just in the end flee. The army's resistance collapsed, the president ran away. Never heard about what happened to him. Where's he go? Don't know. Fled, not to be heard of again. The country just fucking collapsed and everyone just backed the fuck off. You saw those guys were now armed. M4 carbines. Front grips. Nice optics, long barrels. It's like the edge that the US soldier has on the battlefield is that equipment. That's the secret of his success in that parts of the world. Those extra equipment that make that gun a little bit more accurate, make it so you can engage from a lot further away accurately than your enemy can. And they've actually now lost that advantage because of all the equipment that's just... Thousands of them. It might be alright to say, well, wouldn't they be able to just use the old internet and order those kind of accessories for their existing weapons? It's like, good luck. You're not going to be outfitting 1,000 guys with them. Not going to be outfitting 5,000 guys with them. But it's like they've managed that now. They've got the advantage. Always, they always at war. There's a reality to World War One, World War Two. The Americans turn up to fight you, and you've got a fucking problem because so many of them are good at shooting, and so many of them turn up because they're good at shooting. Be fearsome, fucking crack shots. You go and you can go and look it up on Google as to like the longest ever snipe. And the records and it's like some fucking American guy with a musket, bang, have someone from a mile away and shit like that. It's like there's some great shooters in history, and most of them Americans. And it'd be the guys who were good at that. They were good at hunting game. They learned shooting. Deer. It's like when you learn to shoot something shifty and they put you up against humans. Humans are fucking miles easier. Miles easier to take on than animals are. Yeah, they're just miles easier. Easier to spot as well. Humans are incredibly good at spotting other humans. That's a feature of our nature. But that's sort of almost a cultural phenomenon of US supremacy at arms. It's not born at the military school. It's these kids have turned up already knowing how to shoot. It's what happened in, say, World War II, where US soldiers are engaging and hitting Germans from further away. They were better at shooting. By the time Vietnam comes along, they're all a lot younger, so they don't want to kill people. They've got angst about killing, so they just miss. They shoot everywhere. But the World War One and World War Two guys were just flat out fucking killers. From a different world. Fuck, it's like, is the United States a fully civilized place to this day? Ostensibly. Was it in 1914? No near. It was, half unconquered still, I'd say, realistically. On the way there. Like East Coast, yeah, well and truly established. Rest of it, not so much. It's like those Americans, fucking hell, they really nail you. It's like your modern day. Say the Americans, it has to be said, it's like they don't lose battles. They get forced out of wars for political reasons and get into wars for spurious reasons in the first place. It's the problem. When it comes to the job of destroying, yeah, they're actually quite effective. And they're not so different in the methods either than the way that the Russians have been going about it right now. If they've been able to build up a few 100,000 troops to be able to fight that way, that's how they'd be fighting. That's the war they'd be offering, which is a great irony. But for, say, the US to basically drop a load of Marines on another nation, I don't see that they've got the logistics anymore to do it. I don't think the US has got shit of a capacity to inject a force into Europe that would turn the tide of any war. Not enough. There's certain situations in the world that could come up as to where the US is the wrong military for the job, because the US is the only sea power now. The British used to be a sea power. We're not anymore. There's only one sea power, and that's the United States. But there are many land powers. It's like the lords of the sea are not the people to be engaging in landlocked wars in Europe. You just can't muster enough force and be able to equip and transport them all without being detected, and to coordinate any kind of sort of invasion or insertion. It's like, in this modern era, your plans are known. You can't do anything in darkness anymore. If you needed to mobilize a lot of people, it's like, these are the realities of the world we find ourselves in, as to where they're getting a bit funny, aren't they? They're getting a bit heated, as to where the Pakistanis and the Indians had to have a big dick wanking contest, didn't they, recently? And then immediately both sides went, hey, hang on a minute, we just reminded ourselves. We just needed a reminder as to what the stakes are. And I think both sides thanked the other side for the reminder, didn't they? It's the only right way of doing it. It's like, if big questions ever got asked, that's the thing about leaders of countries. It's why I think I'd probably be better at it than Starmer. Really, I do. I'll sit here and say I'm probably be better at running this country than Starmer. Because it's like big questions asked him, big decisions made that have lasting repercussions. We're talking about trouble in the Middle East. We're talking about trouble towards the Far East. Situations with China and realignment of forces as far as like who the trading powers are, who gets to flex, who's got the leverage to negotiate, which is Trump, because no one's tried before, but there was all the leverage in the world. You've got all this shit going on, and at the same time you've got war drums beating. You've got a man like Zelensky who's talking peace, but his peace involves a Russian surrender and return of all territory and the like. Wonder what life might be like for the people in those old regions that were previously being shelled and oppressed by the Ukrainians. That the whole thing was kicked off ostensibly to defend the people. No, they'd think like their territory by some fucking American politician was given back to the Ukrainians. What do you think they might think? What do you think that might be? I think that might be the next war, don't you? I don't think there's the terms that Putin in a million years would ever agree to, but they're the only terms that are being offered to him by that European coalition of fucking idiots. All the while, there's fighting going on. Fighting that's not going well at all for Ukraine, because fighting's not been going well for Ukraine for a couple of years now. Although they just multiply their number of kills by 5, and have done since the beginning. So they're still saying, oh, we're killing 5 times more. It's like, no, you're fighting an attrition war where you're outgunned. And you're always on the run. But the true figures is 1 for 1, it's man for man. You're fighting an attrition war where you're doing a lot of retreating. Whereas, but saying that, with plenty of battles in the Ukraine war where Zelensky's giving them the orders to, like fucking Hitler would, to fight to the last man. You tell them to fight to the last man and they actually fucking do it, and you stand over. We lost 5,000 troops that day. If they can't win, they should be allowed to fucking use the nous and run and live to fight another day. There's a thing that anyone, say military type, if you're something like the guy on the ground like a colonel or something, and the big general gets on the phone and says the Prime Minister, who was a former television comedian, has ordered you to hold that position no matter the cost. And it'd be a matter of, all right, they're giving me a choice: resign, or just say, yeah, okay, and just fucking leg it. Face the repercussions alive. I know who's going to win that war. Knew who was going to win that war and the day it started. It was pretty obvious. I could make the case, sit here 20 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, saying why the Russians would win. Now, do you not get it as to where it's like, the reason, right, has never worked. And objections that make the whole thing clear as day folly, right, they don't work either. And they've never worked. For every bad decision that's been made by successive Western governments and new directions taken, there's always been reasoned opposition at every turn of the fucking, turn of the globe every day. And it's never mad. So I ask yourself, you influential guys in opposition, why oh why are you so ineffectual? Why aren't you able to become the force that sets the world right? Because there's an opportunity to be that. I think what Mr. Lindsay is doing, actually, and this is a thing that is being misunderstood, he's testing people as to whether they're fit to lead, to have influence, power, and they're all failing. You're all failing. He's tested all of you, and he now understands who you are. He understands your nature better than you. Done his study. I'd say it's a mistake to dismiss him as you can sometimes be someone who's right, and by the nature of this just world, be beset on all sides by people telling you you're wrong, failing to understand, or deliberately failing to understand what's being put to them because it forced them to self-reflect. He throws that walk right around these people who the label has found its way to. They can't help but react, and they react like they're trans activists. And in that we find the real enemy. That's who we're after. That's who we've been trying to flush out. That's what we've found on the other side. That's the element in the left that turns the left into a fucking shit show that ends up abusing everyone's kids. And hey presto, we found it here as well. But this is even worse because this it's like the left, most of it accepts that it's doomed and degenerated. The fake right is doomed and degenerated, but would paint a picture of family, life, and values. You were interested in endlessly winning a cat fight against an opponent in the left that's in desperate need of being reorganised, that's actually just in its way waiting to be hijacked. It is. The left's waiting to be saved. They've got no one. They've got no one. No. Their guiding lights and imaginary friends are disappearing. They're in desperate need of new direction and new leadership. It's like they're disorganised at the minute. There's opportunity. There's opportunity to be able to actually communicate a way as to put it as to where, right, we're looking along the lines at two different gangs that are real mixed tents of people, and within those big tents of people, you've got people of a certain character. They're bad actors, and they broadcast. They are at large in exactly the same way as the, the woke fucking clergy of academia on the left. They're as wide open as they are. Like, don't let them anywhere near it, because they'll fuck it up for all of us. They'll hand the whole thing straight back to the bosses. See, Trump's not one of the bosses, you see, because he's excluded. He's not in the club. He was never invited to any of the creepy parties or anything. They can't buy him. Lobbyists can't give him things, shiny things, to just outright buy him, because that's what's been going on. The leaders of the US have been outright bought. The say Andor finishes tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to that, but I'm also in some ways afraid, almost terrified of what might happen. Like, wow, I'll be watching it like with trepidation as to, this could really be shocking, this could upset me, this. It set the table as to where whatever comes next is going to be a fucking bloodbath. I could predict things, but I'll be wrong. I've never been correct about a single prediction ever when I've tried to predict what would come next in that show. But it's like that Gorman thing. Gorman. Do you know what that's based on? The whole plot of it. Iraq. It's just Iraq. That place has got something underneath it that we either want to keep in the ground or we want out of the ground. Doesn't matter whether we're pumping it, we're controlling it. We can work with it either way. We just don't want that money going to those people. Not understanding that the old warlord of the country is pretty good at keeping law and order, and there's food in the shops, and if it wasn't for like US sanctions and a military enforced no-fly zone, the place would probably be doing all right. But as it stands, it stands. But all you're actually doing is keeping the people you say are evil in power, because all the government people got a job. The Ba'ath Party people, they've all got a job. All you've done is starved to death the poorest. Reality of it. Before they went in guns blazing after 9/11, sanctions against Iraq were a massive mistake. Why? Because Saddam looked after all his loyalists and let everyone else starve, because he pretty much had no choice. The Praetorian Guard would be like, excuse me, without you, we don't have a job. Emperor Claudius. So he'd be as trapped by the society that had sprung up after a lengthy war against Iran, when he was our man in Baghdad, and people will speak little of the sacrifices they made to win the war against Iran, something that's completely forgotten now, because the state that was able to successfully, win a war against Iran no longer exists. As to where it's like, there's no one left to defend that country. They spent years weakening it. They spent years chipping away, and it's a matter of, it's like Gulf War One, where it's like Iraq invades Kuwait, and it's a matter of it was a ridiculous amount of money that was being stolen from Iraq's oil fields by drilling into their territory. An incredible amount of money being stolen from them. So they make moves against Kuwait, and we're hearing stories about rampaging Iraqi soldiers throwing babies out of incubators. Tearful testimony to the US Congress. Look what they've done, right? And it turns out that she was some fucking relative. Some relative of like the royal family around there, and it'd be absolute fiction. She hasn't stepped foot in that fucking country for years. Well, she gets up and she gives this statement about, I witnessed. It's like, you've provoked them in a real sense into taking direct action against Kuwait. It's like, this didn't just happen. It just wasn't some kind of flash attack. It's like they've communicated with you their intentions, and they've made it quite plain that they're not going to get pushed around, and they're sick of having their shit stolen from them. And there'd be a whole process that happened before mad Saddam Hussein made the decision to start launching missiles at Israel. Or did he even fire those missiles? As people doubt that the Scud missiles being fired were even from Iraq. Luckily, none of them saw the light of day, all shot down in fancy firework displays by the new Patriot missile system. Oh, I'd say a case could be made as to say it's like mad Saddam. It's like he weren't so mad when he was your mate, and he's being stolen from. But it's like the people he's stealing from are friendlier with you than you are with them, and you like an excuse to, you like the excuse to rid him of that large military that he accumulated that was actually strongest at the end of the war. So he had something like the fourth biggest army in the world by way of men and equipment at that stage of the game. He actually had an army to go and take Kuwait, which he did. It's like that could have ended up, oh God, so differently. As to in revenge for that, right? In revenge, it's like, well, the US became kind of hell-bent for revenge against the Iraqis. We should have been able to follow them all the way back to Baghdad and take the country. It's like, by what right would you take the country? And 10 years later, they give themselves an excuse to, before 9/11 happened, I was listening to George Bush talking to the UN about a desperate need to take action against Iraq for all kinds of breaking of sanctions placed against them. 9/11 comes along, goes straight back on the agenda. It's like they were trying to, they were appealing to the United Nations to create a broad support for this invasion. A long time before 9/11 happened, they've been lobbying for it. Bush has been lobbying for international consent to invade Iraq since as soon as he got in. And then when 9/11 happened, they did it. He had impetus. It was a separate issue. They're like, it's a separate issue. It is a separate issue. And they'll say now, well, it was a separate issue. The Saddam thing. But it's really dusty because they created the evidence in paper and intelligence form that they needed to justify invading Iraq on the pretense that they had the ability to strike the West in 45 minutes, implying that they had intercontinental missiles, long range weapon, as they called them then, weapons of mass destruction. And that's bullshit words. It implies nuclear, but they mean as little as grenades, if you like. In a supermarket or a busy place like the Trafford Centre, a fucking grenade is a weapon of mass destruction. What else would you call it? But that became what we used to talk about, weapons of mass destruction. The US, in the second invasion of Iraq, dished out playing cards to their soldiers, and they were targets. You know, the normal playing cards that they used to play cards with, well, they issued them to the soldiers. And for a propaganda thing, they had targets of them that were targets for assassination, mostly. They went in and assassinated those that had been identified by their intelligence sources as the most unhinged and dangerous weapons scientists and the like in Iraq. Hunted them down, killed them, and then marked them off. And in the newspapers every day, it's like, oh, we got the Jack of Spades, we got Chemical Alley, chief weapons scientist. It's like, are you for real? And yeah, they fed us that line of bullshit for fucking years. Like Gorman in Andor. Ostensibly, probably not the case. Iraq is left to its own devices, been quite defenceless. Fell when its state disappeared. It fell prey to ISIS, didn't it? Something far worse even than the Americans. Something far worse than Saddam. You've got, civilian populations of places having run for their lives and become refugees, and they not be, Bedouin sort of savage sort of people. No, they be sophisticated people who've gone to public schools, been sometimes privately educated, been to university. Iraq is not a backwards place. Iraq is quite an advanced one in that regard. And in Iraq, dead right, they turned a lot of skilled people into refugees real quick. I do recall them having reputations in the building trade, not for being cowboys, but for being fucking amazing. I swear, it's bloody hell, it's like, worked on a building site where they had like 2 Iraqis. And there's a tradition in bricklaying. You need 1 labourer for 2 bricklayers. It's the way you do it. The money's split differently, but you need 2 for 1. Otherwise, you're not making money, because if you haven't got about 1 labourer for 2 bricklayers, someone's got to do it. It's absolutely essential. Someone needs to take the bricks up, mix the cement so they can be laying bricks, and there's someone there doing every other job. But usually one labourer who's decent can keep up with 2 decent bricklayers. so they never run out of bricks to lay, so they're just laying bricks. That's the gang, 3-man team. It's like our hearing tale of Iraqi bricklayers, labourers, who come along and said, no, fuck that system. If we do all the work with less of us, will you pay us more? So like, well, we'll give you a try and see how good you are. And it's like one of them guys could keep 4 guys going. They were like, just never stopped. So there were these bricklayers telling me about these Iraqi guys they ended up working with. It's like, when we were brewing up, they were sweeping up. It was their break time too, but they were sweeping up. It's like they turned up first thing in the morning with sandwiches and a brew, and then they just worked all day. And they worked until they were finished, and we'd long since have cleaned up, and they were still finding things to do. And it's like, and how much did you pay them? And they're like, oh yeah, they were expensive, but fucking hellfire. They were like well capable of making a real earner out of it. I put it down to conditioning, that our climate in this country took us. I imagine being a labourer in Iraq, where it's a bit hotter. Am I racist for thinking like this? No matter who you were, you'd still have to get that same amount of work out, wouldn't you? Wherever you were. So they'd be conditioned to working in probably what would be not the greatest, at the best of times, not the greatest environment for carrying bricks and stones about. And I think you get them in English conditions, and they're nice and cool, even cold. And they would find themselves working like maniacs to keep warm even. I think English conditions were absolutely perfect for those guys to transition us to become the ones who are still here. Would be just geniuses of the job. So they had an incredible amount of know-how in their trades. And when it started to appear in this country, it's like, well, we're working men, we might be refugees, we might have found ourselves in another country, but what do you do for a living? Oh, we're construction workers. And weren't they fucking construction workers? And it's like, no lip from them, language, big problem, but they already knew the job. It was laying brick. It's like, oh yeah, we know this. So I found you a couple of labourers, whack, talk among themselves, interpreter, well, they think they can do the work of 4 at least. So you're going to pay them double? Yeah, okay. Brilliant. It's like, go and fucking hire them. It's like, they will, even if they're union regulated, only work so many hours a day, they'll pack a lot of work into 8 hours, those guys. They were really good value for money. People were, in them trades, they were like, who is it we've been bombing? No, seriously, it's like the question be coming up in the pubs. It's like, who's this we've been at war to? Because you see this, it's basically bricklayers and builders are often, they look at each other's work and it kind of be a reflection of them. They wouldn't want someone coming along and looking at their brickwork and saying, oh, that stands out as being a bit shit. They take a lot of pride in what they do. So and they can't, when it's built, they can't hide from it. So it's a lot of their identity and shit goes in bricklayers. They're like, I built that. And they're driving around with them. They're like, yeah, I built that. And if they ever bodge something or do an half job, they have to carry it with them. So a lot of it is pretty much be able to talk to somebody about how good you are at job and not be lying. Turn up, be able to do what you say you can do. That's a big part of that job. And if you put them into the company of like brilliant builders and labourers, they're like, hang on a minute. Yeah, amongst the first tribe of people or first industry to find that were like, there's something amiss about this situation. What? It's like, those Iraqi guys we work with were fucking brilliant. It's like wafer thin, fit lads. Strong as fuck. Dedicated, wanting to earn. Gets you thinking. I had a boss once who was an Iranian. Poor grasp of the language, but in Iranian terms, he was a top lad in computers and computer science. He was out of place where he was more of an engineering type, but he'd found himself running basically a sales team. He had no fucking clue what it was about, but he was good on the equipment. Very good. And it's like he'd been to some fucking decent school in Tehran. I remember once I used to work for a company I used to work for. Used to be able to get very good staff discounts on things, like sometimes 20% on things. This would be a perk of the job that you didn't have to steal from them. You could just go to a Dixon's or a PC World and get a very good applied discount, usually to something quite expensive. And I didn't work for them anymore, but I still had pay slips from working there, so I could still say I still work there and get the discount. But I got wind that they started checking it, because he said to me, this Iranian guy, because he was saying I'm going buying this from your old firm, and I'm like, I could probably get you a discount on that. And then weighed it up. And like, nah, you've been struck off the system. They have to put like an employee number in, and it bounced back. So I said, well, my sister still works there. So I asked my sister a favour. I said, can you do us a favour? Do a big one. Go down quite well with my boss. You save him like 400 quid on something really expensive. And basically he's trying to pick up the then state-of-the-art laptop. So he's talking about 1,000 quid's worth, and it's like, we can get him a right old discount on that. So I said, my sister still worked for him, and I said, could you do me a favour, and I'll give you this guy's phone number. And where she was working, quite close to that. Can I set up a time where you can meet up with him? You can just, when he goes to make this big purchase, you can just put your employee number in, because we could do that. I always used to do it. I used to go in there sometimes when I used to work for him and say, have you got any codes on the system for cheap Sky? You'd be like, what? Is there any employees deals going on? And they wouldn't know to look. I said, yes, such a system for discounted Sky. And they'd find them. They'd go through the system and say, on the system we've got contracts for all of Sky for like 9 quid a month or something. And you'd be like, yeah, sign it up, boom. And then once they'd searched a code, you could then, like, they'd start signing up for it as well. We work there, like, it's there, you can do that. Yeah, there's always a coding system somewhere. Not always, but there's always offers in there. Find them, and then you go to work on Monday and say, hey, the local Dixon's has got codes for discounted Sky subscriptions. And all my mates at work are on the way down there to sign up. When we used to be able to get away with murder and stuff like that. I used to like get me dad discounts on appliances and everything working for that firm. And the people who worked there didn't give a shit. They did it for everyone else as well. So I extended this. Well, I'm kind of still in the club. I can get someone to do you a favour. And it's like, by way of gratitude for my sister doing this guy a favour, this Iranian fella, he turned up with, he says, this is for your sister. Oh, he turned up with a fucking, like, a fancy bottle of cognac, nice chocolates, nice little arrangement of flowers. It's like, yeah, he recognised that I'd done him a favour, and it actually did. We're good folk who went out of our way, and he was like, straight up, it was a matter of reciprocate, reward that. And he's like, I don't want you to cart this, mate. It's like, where do I need to send this? And I'm like, well, you need to send it to where she works. Right, okay. I'm like, where do you want this delivered? And it, you know, I've got something to send over to you, kid. Where do you want it sending? And he's got to arrange for someone to drop it off for him. Thank you very much. Nice card. What was he called? Muzzy. And he used to have some queer ideas about how to drum up business. Although in his way he'd be very, because he'd be in his way a bit sheltered, and his suggestions would be usually really funny. And we used to use them as, we used to basically make memes that we used to spread around each other made of his ideas. He had he thought that if you put like on a, you know, any place of doing business, that if you put like a ball of nuts on counter, that you'll sell more. And this is a big computer store that's got sales offices above it. And yeah, he swore by that. He's like, no, we must do this. It works everywhere. It's scientifically proven. If we have like bowls of peanuts everywhere, people will buy more. And every time we brought it up, we were laughing at him. They were working for them, right? There was they sent him to the warehouse because the things had got out of hand at the warehouse. I was like, what do you mean things have got out of hand at the warehouse? So this is a good tale. Things have got out of hand at the warehouse. Right, okay, send over Mozzie, the general manager. Now, he had to draw up some new rules. Apparently the warehouse had this like recruitment boom where they took on like 8 new lads, right? And he came and he installed 2 new rules, right? No music and no chapatis. And he comes and sees the IT lads and says, right, it's like, I want these big posters making up. No music and no chapatis. By order of the management and all that, no chapatis. And the lad who's knocking this up for him, he's breaking his ass laughing. He's like, John, you've got to come and have a look at this. So I'm getting like an internal phone call. Come and have a look at it. Alright, okay, let's go and have a look. No chapatis, right? Turns out they've basically sponsored some guys to come work in there. And it's like, there's something very iffy about the whole fucking thing where these guys were guys who suddenly appeared from Pakistan. And they weren't Pakistanis. What? It's like they were Afghanis. So they just basically, as a favour to somebody, given a bunch of Iraqi guys a way of getting out of the country. And the reason why, right, chapatis were banned is because they were like manufacturing them, they were making them, and there's flour all over the floor. Because they didn't have the right stuff to be making them. They were making do with what they could get their hands on, right? So it wasn't just chapatis where they're all eating chapatis, it's no, they're making chapatis in the warehouse. And no music is about them guys finding that the place has got a small public address system and then wiring up to it some fucking tape deck they've got playing their music. And their music is like, It's like fast with a lot of drumming and a lot of vocals that we can't pick up on. Well, they kind of all sound the same and are very noisy and generally quite poor recordings. So from a distance, it sounds like kind of but they're into it, and it's got a lot of drums going on, boom, boom, boom. And that was the music. So he came in, and his two rules, because he had to keep it basic as well, because even though, say, these fellas, they didn't have a shared language with most of the guys who worked for the firm, but there were one or two of them who did. So they had to keep it real basic. No chapatis, no music. It's like these guys, right, were odd. This is a problem I had with this firm. I couldn't make good on me realistic promises of delivery times and shit. They just weren't good enough for me to work for. Couldn't make any decent supply promises with them because, first of all, they had the ordering system was too slow. Did 48 hours instead of 24. No good to me. And then we had a situation with the fucking warehouse was manned by guys who couldn't read or speak English and were order picking based on this, whatever it is in language, in its shapes and like, it looks like this. They could do it, but no, it's like the process of them just order picking because they couldn't read and write, so fucking amazingly slow. And then you see in the same building you've got Andre, right? And he's a Russian fella who works there. And the place is like right next door to like the massive hospital in the centre of Manchester, St Mary's, and the rest of it's huge. And it's right next to it. And he's like married to a nurse, Andre. And he turned up once. I heard a story of how they got him, and he turned up in the shop once asking for a job because his wife they moved here, moved from Russia, and his wife had got a good job in hospital, and they live around there. So he's like, can I come and work here? And he wasn't that great at English. And it turned out that he had a degree in computer science from the University of Omsk. And it's like, okay, so what can you do for us? What do you know? And it's like, Jesus wept. It's he was, right, one of the best sources of income that company ever had, because he used to assemble all the computers for him in the end. Everything he sold. It's like he was incredible. Never known anyone who could build computers as fast as he could, and at the same time boot up operating systems. He could have like 8 at once going. And then while he's waiting for like Windows installation on his first lot, he's then assembling his next lot of 8, and he'd be like 3 rows, a machine for building computers and setting them up. If you were just building them up and weren't putting operating systems on them, you could knock them up in less than 10 minutes each. And that includes taking things out of boxes. It's incredible. It's like he was a gifted, basically computer engineer graduate from Russia, who managed to find himself a nice 500 quid a week job working in Manchester, being half a mile away from where his wife worked. It's like, what a fucking perfect outcome he got. Brilliant. He was a decent guy as well. Just down to earth, spot on. Oh, right, like I don't, not much language, but I absolutely know this stuff. Something I used to like about working for them. I would say that they couldn't meet my aspirations, so in the end I basically resigned. I'm like, no, I'm having to quit here. Why? Because I can't take any of my customers with me. I've no interest in building something else based on just an inability to compete in a marketplace where everybody wants everything tomorrow. You're telling me it's going to take 3 days, 2 days. It's like I can't sell, I can't sell working for you anything that people are going to buy any cheaper. So my profit margins are exactly the same as they ever were. My targets are a bit more generous at that, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to make sales when I can deliver something on Friday that my competition can deliver tomorrow at the same fucking price. It's like, I'm asking a lot of my customers, I'm asking a lot of my customers loyalty, which is I've got no right to do. In that people who I deal with, they'd be remiss in doing their job for them to still give me business when the service I provide isn't good enough anymore. I think working for them, say Microdirect in Manchester, that place in the end went bump. Owing the creditors a great deal of money. In my time working for them, I'd opened the door to them being ending up being incredibly rich. That's the thing. It's like, John, it's like qualifications. They say, I said, well, I've got none. I left school with like just a couple of O levels. But it's like, but what do you mean by qualifications? You start asking me what I've been trained to do, and I've got like industry qualifications. It's like, yeah, I'm a Microsoft certified licensing professional. That used to matter, doesn't anymore. No one in that world would have that job. But yeah, working for, say, Microdirect in Manchester, I got them accredited as a Microsoft partner. It was like, John, how do you manage that? I used to go on VIP hospitality days with a lad out of my purchasing department who ended up becoming the compliance and sort of testing officer for Microsoft. So how did I go about getting that accreditation? Rang up Danny. Danny, I need an accreditation for Microsoft. It's like, John, we can't just do that. We can't just give someone that. And I'm like, well, it's like, what do I need to get it? And it's like, well, the firm you're working for needs to have done at least £1 million a year's worth of business with Microsoft. And I'm like, oh. Like, we've resold fucking millions of quid's worth of OEMs. And I'm like, oh, well, you mean like this? And then told him, oh, shit. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Fuck, yeah, you qualify. It's like your firm's got like 60 grand of unclaimed commission as well to draw from. Like, what? It's like, yeah, they're such a big customer that they're in the network, they're in the system, we know about them, but they've just never approached us asking for accreditation. And then he's like, I can do this for you this afternoon. What? It's like, John, it says, you know your stuff. I'd won awards for selling Microsoft licensing. I was a good salesman. John, you need to go on the Microsoft website and you need to familiarize yourself with all the names of the products. You don't need anything more than that because you know what all that stuff does anyway. You're trained up. Go and weigh up what's on the price list, mate. It's like, there will be a test and I know you're going to pass it because you've already sold all this gear before. This is a formality for you. So, but there are certain ins and outs you need to know for this test. So he basically is like, he basically pre-briefed me on what the test would be. And then in the afternoon I took the test and he says, John, it's a borderline this, but you actually, you pass, you qualify. We'll tell your suppliers that you're now authorized to sell the entire Microsoft library through licensing. Basically, you can sell products without ever, that are bona fide, legit, but you never have to ship any cargo. There's no product. It's just licensing. It's in essence just be able to sell pieces of paper on behalf of someone else and make 20% profit on it. So it was a matter of when I left there and said, you can't do the job for me, I had actually set the place up to be somewhere that I could actually just do that kind of business from. But it would have taken me so long to build it up. And in the meantime, the other side, the business, non-existent. Basically, I went in there and tried to create the conditions for me just to do my normal job. Needed a licensing rep. I haven't got one. Right, well, I'll become one. Yeah, I did all that shit. And I put it to these guys when I set it up for them. I was like, look, I'm going to do this. Just when I see the bosses with these like Muslim devout guys, intelligent fellas, you know, like they were really keen, spoke the Queen's English, drove around in Porsches and Ferraris, and wore all the full dress, you know, prayed all the time. Those guys. And I went in and just explained to them, right, I'm doing this. And they like, looked at each other. Yeah, sounds good. Where you go? Tell us what you need. I said, I think I'm probably going to need to have a word with like the finance boy. And he was this South African fella. He was nice. And it's like, he buzzes down to him and says, John's coming down. He might need something from you. Give him everything he needs. Thank you. Down you go. Right, you're going to get some phone calls here. They're going to want some more information. You're going to now get your, and then it were a matter of, I got the credit limit boosted with one of the biggest suppliers by a couple of million quid. Just, it's like suddenly, because you've taken on this capacity for a new kind of business, you need a much higher credit limit. And just gave it them. It's like with them, they could carry a couple of million quid worth of debt then. And when they went out of business, they went out of business owing that very supplier a couple of million quid. The place is now, what was it? I drove past it a couple of weeks ago when I went to the hospital. I think it's something like a restaurant or something now. Nice building. But it's like, yeah, when that firm went down, they went down owing, well, it's the way you go down in business. But they went down owing all their creditors millions of quid that they couldn't account for. They'd in essence fire sailed it and just sold every bit of stock they had for as much as they could make, but could nowhere near get to the shortfall of profit against wages. That place, right? Do you know what was actually its downfall and destruction, and it was also what made it a really good place to work, was that everyone who worked there, apart from I think 4 of us, right, were all related. They were all Punjabi, Shia Muslim, Northern Pakistani descent. Mostly they're all born in the UK. But they were young, active, vibrant, young Northern Pakistanis. And some of them were really nice. Some of them were really nice people. But then you used to get it where some of them were not so nice. There used to be a guy who used to sit in the opposite corner of the office on just a basic call answering job. And he was like the house, he was a kind of a sportsman, right? That was from Pakistan, who was playing a bit of cricket, who they were given a job to, you know, help fund the whole thing. And he had an arm on him like a sniper, and he used to be on the other side of the office from me, and he used to like to, every now and then, throw something at me. So I used to have like rubber things and sometimes harder things bounce off the back of my head, and it's like this guy had an incredible arm. As to where, yeah, well, he's a sportsman. He's not actually expected to do a great deal of work. There were most of the people who worked there, right? there was a girl who worked there who was about 18 or 19, and she was like a very, let's say, very innocent, very prim, very proper, come from a good family. As to where she was certainly like a virgin, you know, she was a really young girl, and she was absolutely angelic, sweet, beautiful, and she was absolutely stone useless at the job. Stone useless, but they loved her, right? And it's like she was doing a job of like credit control, and she was abysmal at it, but nobody ever said a bad thing to her. Everybody always treated her because she was so nice. She was just a beautiful creature, lovely girl. And it's like she's absolutely plain slow and useless at what she does. And the girl who works with her is rushed off at her feet, and a very rough, very sweary Salford bird. And this be a weird bottleneck in our system as to where she's lovely, but she's absolutely useless. And it's like, yeah, but she is lovely, isn't she? The guy who gave her the job, right? She wasn't of their family, but she was a Pakistani girl. The lad who gave her the job, Steve, who'd also given me a job, right? I didn't know him, but he was a former colleague of somebody else I'd worked with. And they're like, he's decent enough lad, and he is. But it's like, yeah, but mate, it's like, I get to sit looking at her all day. And she's absolutely wonderful. Why am I ever going to leave this chair? It's like, I hired her. She's beautiful. And he didn't give a shit about that, but it's a matter of, she was certainly not a girl that anyone was ever going to take advantage of, or you would be just a mile offside to ever even approach her. Seriously, she's beautiful. But she was absolutely pure as a driven snow. And everyone loved it. Everyone was like, you treat her with, respect her. Because she's nice and kind. She'd never say anything mean to you. Never mistreat you. Never treat you with anything but respect. And you find yourself reciprocating to someone who's like really sweet. And it's like, who could ever hurt her? Who could ever have a hard word for her? And they were right. She was a goddess. But she was fucking awful at accounts. If you needed a phone call making to a customer to get something through the system, she just wasn't there for that. She wouldn't know what to say. I can't do that. Part of your job. What? But the place had half a dozen at least just complete passengers who worked there, and then others who were half a passenger. I used to have this Pakistani woman she was a mother. She had a couple of kids. She was a housewife, but she was of the big family, and she used to sit behind me and be, every time I said something a little bit off colour, she'd be like turning round in that mum way, and she'd be like, "Why'd you put it like that? Oh, why'd you say it like that?" And she in essence, she was in some regards on sort of Islamophobia, racism kind of patrol, but she was trying to catch me, if you like, and she was making me explain myself. Never got accused of ever being racist working with an entire Pakistani company, ever. So there was of white people who worked there. There was one chap in IT who did a big admin job for him, and then there was Keith, and then there was Andrew, where he called her Dave. Can't remember, one of the Dave. And he was a chancer, didn't know what he was doing. Keith was experienced, but in a different field. So there were only a few of us who weren't part of this big Pakistani family. And you had to get used to the hierarchy in the sort of office I were in was different than the one of the store that was downstairs, which was separate, but it was part of the same business. And it's like the lads downstairs, they were fucking animals. They were business-wise addicted to selling meme machines, sold fucking tons of shit, were part of the family that ran the firm, and were drawing themselves like practically millionaire wages, being the front of the firm, being the bit facing forward. It's like they were good businessmen. They were open 7 days a week. I used to have the weekend off, and they're like, you ever expect to earn any money? But say what would sink that company in the end is that it basically employed its own family members, all of them. Right, they've had a cousin who's just left university, cousin who's just left school. Right, can you find them a job somewhere? And they would. They had a warehouse full of shady refugees from Afghanistan. They would just take it. They were a family that would just basically give jobs to people. So they take me in, and I'm like, okay, right, I had to meet a standard here of expertise to be able to apply for this job. And it's like, no one in the place had my level of training or expertise. None of them, nobody. And they were pretty clueless about what they were doing. Even other people they brought in who were supposed to be able, trained up to be able to. Well, you basically got to be able to do in a company like that is you haven't got tech support of working for an empire anymore. So you have to be able to do the job and dispense with tech support, which I can do. I can be my own tech support. Certainly from that side of from the sales end, don't need them. If you can work without them, you don't need them anymore. So you don't need the firm you might have worked for before was spending £500,000 on tech support in wages every year. The one you've moved to isn't fucking paying a penny. So I've been brought in because I can work without that. I can work, I'm fully trained. And it's like no one else who worked in that place was. No one, apart from the lads in the store. They knew what was on the shelf, they knew what work they were selling kits for people. They were mostly selling builds, and I'm selling everything. But yeah, so that were a phase in my life working for them. I say I might as well carry on talking about it because it's a long time since I've thought about it even. There were a phase where I used to travel to Manchester and back every day for work. And not just to Manchester, like deep into Manchester, like say near Manchester Royal Infirmary. Like down off the bottom of Oxford Road, like to the side of Rusholme. Between Rusholme, this place be the hospital between where I was and Rusholme. Like really pretty much just outside the centre of Manchester. So I used to do a 2-bus and train journey both ways every day. But that became truncated to getting picked up at the train station by my mate and then just going to the pub. And it was usually mostly having your tea at McDonald's. I would get a McDonald's and then go to the pub and then stay in the pub till about 10:30. Go home, flick all my lights on in the house, make myself a brew, have a check of my email, have a quick look at the, news and shit. And then go to bed at midnight and do the whole thing again, getting up 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. And that was my life, working for them. Too far, no transport. But it'd be, my actual day of travel was massively shortened when it was a matter of just getting picked up off my mate who finished, he finished work at about the same time as I got back to Rochdale, so he used to just pick me up from the train station. It was usually right handy. And so I used to count finishing work at like 7 o'clock. On my working day then finish at 7 o'clock. But in reality, if I was continuing on my way home, my working day would go for maybe 8 o'clock. So like 14 hours a day on the job with travel. Every day in Manchester. What a fucking place Manchester is. I was going to say, it's like you're travelling into it every day and seeing it with your own eyes over a period of a couple of years. I worked for a few different companies, travelling into Manchester, and then when I was driving, I used to go there a lot as well. And it'd be, you ain't seen nothing till you've seen that fucking congregation of dickheads around Manchester, Piccadilly Gardens. I knew about it back then. I knew about the creep of Manchester as to where this is, to be a vulnerable person walking around this place. It's like, I laugh at most of these fucking idiots around there. But if I weren't a big fucker, just shove them, get rid of them. Have you noticed how interesting that Charlie Veitch has become as a person and let's say a voyeur of human nature since he discovered Manchester? Never spoken to Charlie. I've exchanged words with him in text messages a few times in the distant past. He was there were a mate of mine down in London who used to meet up with him and go to his little rallies and shit. Thinking, yeah, and it's like he needed to sort of find his place, didn't he? Because he made himself a little bit of a celebrity, and then it's a matter of he had to suffer a bit. So on his path to hell, he ended up, for reasons of ties that bind, becoming a denizen of fucking Manchester, or else like Salford. And it'd be a matter of, mate, if you have found a marketplace in the world for just footage and witticism, this is the place. And it always was the place. And it's like, you come to Manchester and do that as an outsider, someone who doesn't talk like us, someone who doesn't sound like us, someone who's massive, like fucking make me look like a normal sized person. So as I said, Vici. It's like, I put it to him like in messages, and it's like, one day, so you doing your act of mouthing off love this and the love police and that shit, everything is okay. I'm like, you try that in Manchester, so you would get fucking battered, mate. It's like, you go and see those people trying to, when you were preaching that love shit, in essence trying to get access to women, which he succeeded at, and then paid the price for that, so understands the folly of that. So it's like, yeah, you had that feather to your cap, estranged children and multiple franchise families and stuff. Add that to the mix, all adds to the experience, and then it's like, and then you find Manchester and you learn the folly of your old ways when you're faced with inexplicable sort of street evil. And it's no pure and evil, as any other kind of evil. It's a pure evil that you can witness in Manchester city centre on most days. If you're like me, if you've got an eye for things that are fucked up, you can usually find something on any given day in Manchester that's like, this is alarming. I wonder what the ins and outs of this story are. And you wouldn't want to know. Manchester appears to be an unfolding tragedy as to, I don't know what Manchester's plans are. The amount of high-rise, what they would call luxury housing, it's just flats, but they're calling them luxury flats because, they don't look like the old flats, but what looks to be fucking thousands of them going up all over the place, all over northern Manchester. It's like you can't move for them anymore. It's like everywhere you look, there's a new building, housing complex going up. It's like, these are not business premises, these are houses. And it's like, what's this about? It's like, are these going to be like second homes for people who think Manchester's some kind of place? Or are these going to be the places where people who work in Manchester now live? Are these the methodology that you've come up with to alleviate the pollution in the centre of Manchester, as to have it as to where its workforce are now going to be able to live next to it? And it's like the realisms, the realities of the people who like actually work a living in the centre of Manchester are mostly low-paid workers who likely could never afford to actually live there, as to what's this to bring in a load of tourists to live here, or a load of out-of-towners. It's like, I'm sorry, but the centre of Manchester is a centre of commerce, you know, a place where people work. It's not anything like what it was. I mean, back in my day, where they were packing them on the trains like sardines, and them train stations in the morning and evening were absolutely fucking rammed with people going to the Four Corners because their office jobs were in Manchester. So there's so much less of that now. It's like the place is having an identity shift forced upon it. And I wouldn't be surprised, you know, in the end, if all those new flats, if like they don't just all get leased at the same time off Serco and just become the modern incarnation of the hotel. You know, we've taken you out of the hotel and we've now put you in this brand new block of flats that we're calling luxury flats for those who are asking about buying one or leasing one. There's some very nice luxury flats gone up in the centre of town, Rochdale. The rent is like shit. For, you know, my equivalent flat in that place, it'd be £400, £500 a week. And what do I get for that? Well, I live right in the centre of Rochdale. It's like, why the fuck would you want to live right in the centre of Rochdale? That's the most dangerous part of the town. If something bad's going to happen to you, that's where it's going to happen to you. So you want people make a neighbourhood of that place? You've knocked down a car dealership and built flats there. And you want people to fucking live there? It's like the change that's imposed on people in this part of the world. And it's like, who makes these decisions? And it's like, oh, they create a quango over and above the local authorities who've got all kinds of plans. I think there's aims to make Manchester like one of the great university cities. There's plans to make it one of the greenest places. There's plans to make it a place of fine art and gay culture. There's just every kind of bullshit cultural scheme is being in one way enabled and funded by it at the same time as all this infrastructure investment. And it's like, you look at this stuff they're building and it's like, developers not building these. It's like, this is government money. This is funds that the city's generating that's building all this shit. It's like they've got rid of the social housing and they've fenced it off in one place, and instead of that, it's like the government are going to be operating in the world of lettings and become private landlords. It's been going on a while. It's not council housing, it's private. But the landlord and the owner of the building, the people who made the investment to build it, are the council, because they can always borrow money to build things like that and call it added value. So they've increased the value, call it an investment. It's weird. It's like your council's got like weird fiduciary style responsibilities as to where they can look anywhere for money. They can use taxpayers' money to speculate on property, and they've been that's the sort of the mainstream other elephant in the room with the corruption of northern councils. Is how they spend money like that. Rochdale, if a valuable building comes up for sale and nobody really wants to buy an old department store on a road that's got a daily macabre show of retards making a show of themselves, imposing itself on it. And it's, you know, Marks and Spencer's don't want it anymore, and the council buy it, and the council buy like a hefty fee, pretending that that's as that spotted as valuable as it ever was, in paying them paying them what they wanted for the place, like giving 17 million quid for an old supermarket, and then turning it into the LGBT safe space and community hub. In essence, just putting it into use as a kind of charity shop. It's like the charity, commercial property, right? If it's got nobody in it, it very quickly diminishes in value, because I mean, no one in it means it never gets aired, it never gets heated, right? In this part of the world, it's kind of humid, and if you leave something with the shutters down for months, weeks and months, by the time you go back in it to make it a public premises, you're going to need to really fully refurbish it, even if it was in good shape before. It's that kind of place. There's erosive forces at play, right, in this town. And most damp places, most wet places, but there are erosive forces at play. That building that's got the shutters down, that's having nothing to do with it, sooner or later it's going to, over a passage of time, the water will get the better of it, become a fucking ruin. First it'd be damp, and then it'd be rotten, and then it'd be a ruin, and it kind of happens so fast in the end. As some buildings go down in Rochdale, I'll be discovered to be so rotten that they've just collapsed in the past. I went on holiday once and came back, and it's like, A and B video on Whitworth Road, you got there, don't you? Yeah. Well, it's collapsed. You won't be going there again. I'm like, you what? Yeah, it just fell down, just collapsed into its own footprint. What? Did anyone get hurt? Well, there was only one person working there at the time, and she caught onto what was going on. She legged it out at the back door. The person who was caught up in it used to be my neighbour for a few years when I lived with my parents. So I knew who it was, who was to blame, you know. But that building had been changed so often from one, well, it was initially changed from one purpose to another. And it's a matter of the second floor of it had never been used for anything, and basically the building had gone rotten, and they were just giving it a lick of paint. And when they started to try to renovate it, they kind of, what's the word, destabilized the whole structure, and come to realise that it was missing certain supporting parts that decisions have been made to remove by short-sighted people who didn't understand the building. So it was basically a building that had a major support taken out of it, a big supporting sort of beam taken out of it, and then it just be ignored, and then eventually 20 years later it just absolutely collapsed on itself. I'm coming home from airport. My dad gave me a lift back. He says, "Look, I'll drive past it, I'll show you." And it's fucking gone. It'd been thrown. What left of it was just rubble, gone, completely fell. And it's like, buildings do that in the end. I've come to understand that, and now there's a safeguard on the value of the building, and also to guarantee that it never falls into rot and rust, and that is to have it occupied. So if you give it to the charity shop for free, they're actually maintaining its commercial value. So there's money in it. It's like negative money, but there's money in it. So when you see an expensive piece of real estate suddenly get given away to be a charity shop, it's only being the space just being lent. It basically means it's up for sale in reality, but there's no one ever going to come along and buy it. You think them charity shops would stay charity shops if someone's like, I'm going to open a new shop in every town in this country? It's like, them charity shops would soon be premises for sale, wouldn't they, for some budding entrepreneur? But is there a budding retail entrepreneur in this fucking country? No. It's like, is the retail traffic dead? It's like, no, but the money, right, that facilitates such activity has been moved. And it ain't here. So you can say, Charlie Veach with his camera will show you a Manchester city centre that's still alive. A retail sector. Lots of foot traffic. All the big names. It's like, well, you get to anywhere but there and you don't see none of that no more. None of it. On its absolute last legs. As to where, if you've got money in your pocket and you want to go out and buy and get things you want, you have to go to Manchester now. Fuck all chance of anything around here. There's no shops that sell that kind of stuff. You need to go to Manchester. And then you get to Manchester and it's fucking trouble and crackheads and dickheads and fighting and fucking creepy scenes as to where, oh yeah, it's not just the centre of it's not just the centre of retail. It's now the centre of degenerative fucking culture, because it's a matter of you can be braver and get away with more. I think if you want to be just a bum in Manchester and get on the first train and be a bum in Manchester. I think there's more to see. I think there's more drama for the drama orientated in Manchester. I think when you get ran out of Rochdale and say people from the council put injunctions against you so you can't be on the street and things like that eventually because of all your thieving, you get the message and then you head to Manchester. So I think Rochdale's like a finishing school. I think Manchester's where the professional scum just operate in the open. I think there's a scum ladder. I think by the time no one in the world can fucking suffer you, that's when you end up being one of those straight arseholes in Manchester. Because the sort of, there's a thing as to where there's something that our society has actually missed as to the original piss takers and players of cards, in my mind, as to where it's become something that's really toxic, where the ostensible homeless that of no fixed aboard shit. It's like a cover for every fucking criminal in the world. That used to be a card they could play, an identity they could immediately assume, and position of victimhood that they could apply. As to where in the lowest of the worst criminal fraternities of the vampire who's down on his fucking luck, you find him in the homeless. I find him amongst the homeless. You know, the completely busted out scumbag pariah, the wrong un. Eventually that's the only place where he'll find himself a place. When they kick you out of the hostel, because in the hostel they try to give you order and you associate it with the abuse that you received as a child. My education failed. There's a reason why my education failed, and it's clear as day to me. Because I'm a bright child, or I was. My education failed because I attributed education to being in a fucking prisoner of war camp, and couldn't think of any greater day than to leave that place and it be liberation. And I intended to leave that place as soon as I humanly possibly could, in order to experience freedom. I thought about school as a prison sentence. Now, if I hadn't thought of school as a prison sentence and somehow a system to beat, I think I'd have probably done all right. But that seeing oneself as a prisoner, that points to a bit of a bad experience of life, as to everything's a prison to you. And in essence, your ambition is to escape the prison. And then you escape the prison and think, oh, well, I'm out in the real world now. The real people show me the way, and they don't really give a fuck. Because it's you's mistaken. You weren't in a prison. You were in a school, and you've not acted appropriately. You've acted as if you were an inmate. And that's why your education's failed. It's like there are those who see it as that, and I certainly was one of those. But I was a prisoner of war in my own home as well. I felt like I was a prisoner there. I had inconsistent rules and judgments. Although I'm probably a bit ahead in the punishment and beatings count, to be honest. Lived a few double lives in my time. I'm probably actually ahead of the game. In fact, I know I am. But yeah, it's like, it's part of that. It's like I escaped from my childhood home when I was 18 years old. Went to live on my own. No fucking clue what I let myself in for. I just did it. And here I am, just as on my own, 32 years later. As to where I don't think I could imagine a situation other than living on my own. It's not that I'm not open for change, it's a matter of be a voyage of discovery. I learned when I first was just in an empty flat with a mattress on the floor and a little cooker and a fridge that half worked and a telly. In that time I worked out how to be content in my own company, and it was about reading. Found that when I were on my own for the first time, as to where I could take immense comfort for all my sorrows in a right good book, and everything be fine. So it's like when you start that, when you get into that, as to well, okay, I'm on my own. What's the best thing the things you can be doing when you're on your own? Reading's number one, isn't it? It's just brilliant. It's the internet came along and it sort of knocked me off reading. It just knocked me off it. But before then it was books. I never used to mind it. It's like, oh, I've got all this time I can be doing some reading. So by the time the internet came along, it's like, well, I substituted that, didn't I, with the internet? But yeah, back then, reading. And then there are other pursuits. It's like on my way home from work about 3 times a week, if I fancy, I'd walk past to see what was in the video shop on the way home, and I'd watch a movie. Read a book. I've never died from my own cooking. And if I make an effort, yeah, I can eat well. So it's like, look after myself, all right. But yeah, it's like that simple. I find that there's a simple pleasure in just being on your own, and it not be a problem. It's like that's something I realise. If you can't be all right with yourself, what chance has anyone got? You know what I mean? If you're in essence someone who's at war with themselves, as to where to be on just in one solitude is unhappy. It's like, oh, sort that out first. It's like you're not a ray of sunshine, are you? You're not bringing anything whimsical or funny with you. Not that I do. My general these days principle is just don't engage, don't get involved. It's like things are rough enough for most people. Don't make them worse. It's like now is not the time for belly aching and tub thumping, as far as I'm concerned. Just people in general, it's a matter of be your respectful self and don't make matters worse. It's been my just general policy for quite a while. Don't set about to fuck anyone's day up, which is not something that's always been one of my creeds, but it is these days. I don't see there's any good energy or time spent like getting in the face of minions who often in getting in the way in doing just doing the job in some regards. I don't think you should ever be mean, nasty or ungrateful to people who are in their way, just as trapped as I have felt I've been before, where you work somewhere, you're a captive audience, you have to play a part. Say those people in the actual pursuit of doing the job, facing their own kind of pressure. I don't believe in ever fucking up their day. When it's so easy to do, you can be that cunt that day who mouths off, can't you? And I've vowed not to ever be that guy. Done it before? No. But it's in a weird way, and it's not the worst thing. I find myself devoid of any meaningful alliances really at the moment, I'd say. No one I'm working with, nobody I'm scheming with, nobody I'm really communicating with on the level of intelligence, working things out. It's like I am so yeah, it's not that I've run out of allies. It's not that people have fallen out with me. It's a matter of I don't know, probably for a different phase of this struggle. And looking at the way that me colour's deteriorating, because I have now become one of the white-haired. I don't no longer count as a grey. I don't think. I'm now a white beard. Completely literally, as to the last drops of youth or colour are just falling away. But my eyes are still wide open. I can see that everybody's taking the piss. And all those effective have got utopian visions, high aspirations, high opinions of oneself and one's intellect, as to the internet influencer, big guy can put any kind of shit out into the world, and these little monkeys behind him who can't think and rely on the guy for an opinion. They'll all quack back at you and tell you how great you are. The worst place to get an honest appraisal from anyone anywhere is the internet, certainly the mass anonymous internet. If you want to go to a platform or a place where you might be understood, don't mouth off on Twitter. The sarcastic tone you might have, it takes a real mastery of words to reproduce it, and for it to be obvious enough for it not to have people going fucking loony. It's like if you can't see that there's amongst the forces of the ostensible good, if they can't see that their problems are much deeper than their political enemies, they have got a real issue when they come into thinking that they're going to be creating some kind of new order or movement, or say Christian nationalism. An American Pope, how about that? You know, I'm always disappointed when whoever gets Pope, because I want a job. In fact, I think I'm entitled to Pope. So every time it comes up, I'm like, Mr. Trick there. My age could have been going for that if I'd have gone down that path, because I had a chance of going down that path too. Long, long ago. First ever where they tried to push me towards a vocation. The first one ever is I'm thinking I could get myself up into the synod or something. But like a career priest that fucking goes for it. Because they do exist, you know. Career priests who go for it. Yeah, they're a thing. There used to be a thing back then. But in certain circles there are. Can you imagine the shit that must be involved in that conclave as to deciding who gets to be Pope? And it'd be the notion is, I'm in direct odds with the notion of the Pope. I think it's cheating. What, John? Yes, I understand, right. There's two understandings of Christianity. And broadly speaking, without fucking misleading anyone, there's two schools of thought. The school of Peter and the school of Paul. And these be people who were not friends. But it could be said that Paul spent most of his life trying to prove himself not a cunt to Peter for killing Stephen. So there's an apologetic effort by Paul to prove to someone that he changed who could never have believed that he would, which is part of their disagreement as to where St. Paul would put it as to where it's like you can create your own account with God. It's like those open to the experience might just feel it. So every human being is this basically access to God, right, is available to everyone, is what Paul says. And what Peter says is, no, you have a word with me and I'll have a word with God for you. There's things in Catholicism, right, where you pray to saints, right? And almost as if it's like almost an iconography, a hero worship even. And it's something that's something that's actually just found its way across from the way the Greeks do it, isn't it? So they've felt they've needed a pantheon of saints, of heroes. They've needed stories. So it's like, what qualifies you as a saint? It's like, well, mentioning dispatches in the Bible might count you as a saint. It's like, shit, some of them did some really fucked up things. It's like, yeah, they did, didn't they? And it'd be God's will that the assassin, well, she called that saint who put that nail through that Roman officer's eye, killed him, big nail. Can't remember it now. Proper saint, proper old school saint. No, I have a major disagreement with the entire Catholic Church as to where it's a matter of it's me against them now. I don't mean to see the end of them or anything like that. I haven't got a vendetta against them. It'd just be a matter of I, in one vessel, can do what all you guys try to do. And you have to go up almost a hierarchy. Where my grandma was a big time charlatan in the Catholic scam. She liked it. And she used to send, right, money in envelopes to churches to ask them to say prayers for her. Or as if her own prayers would be amplified if she said the prayers at home and then sent the money. And I'm like, who the fuck taught you that? And it'd be I don't see that that's too far removed from voodoo. And that be someone who'd be really, respected. It's like I attended a funeral and they had the whole church open for it. It was and they put on where she was used to worship for all those years. They put on a lovely funeral for her. Like the church actively, involved themselves in putting on a right good funeral for my grandma. And I was in there and I made a realisation about Jesus while I was sat in there looking at this great big dead figure on a cross, because they've got this really realistic, macabre Jesus on the cross sort of thing going on. And I realised something about Jesus and I found it funny. That's like, I just noticed something about that, and it's like, why did I never notice it before? And it had me over at my grandma's funeral. I was kind of grinning and sniggering. And then I come away from the place and I'm kind of I just worked something out about that place, because it was a place I'd frequented from like the age of 4, and I used to serve in there, and I used to see it as a prison camp as well. I used to see being an altar boy certain. I said, never ever wear a watch if you're me being an altar boy, because you're just like this. And it's a really bad look. It throws the whole thing off. You can fuck the mass right up being an altar boy with a watch. It was like, get a move on. Because I used to find myself like that. I used to be thankful when it came to as an altar boy, when I used to do the mass, I used to be thankful when it came to the end, because it meant I didn't have to fucking kneel anymore. Like, thank God that's over. So it was to me, it was a sacrifice. It was just horrible. It was like to prostrate yourself. It was to endure suffering for a fixed amount of time, understanding that it will end. And then when it ends, everything's better because you're not kneeling anymore, and it's like everybody goes home. And I'm like, there's that ritual, even though I've got a twisted nature as to where I always think I'm a prisoner. I see that whole process as a form of punishment, and it's like, whether it is or it isn't, it's like if it has that effect on me, there are others it's having that effect on, and it's in essence penitence. And it's just penitence as to suffer on one's knees and supposedly reflect. A lot of people I've known in my lifetime taken great comfort from organised religion, religious community. Not the worst thing, but from my perspective, I could only ever see it as a place of punishment, suffering. And I looked at Jesus and I'm like, he's a scarecrow. I'm like, what? But yeah, it's like this organisation, this Catholic Church. It's like their poster boy is a dead man being hung like a slave. And there's a thing about it that says to me that the bosses who did this are still the bosses. And it'd be a message straight up to tell you, see this one? This is the best fucking carpenter the world ever produced. And look what we did to him. He's a scarecrow. It's a warning. Don't you ever try this. Do not be a lowly carpenter who suddenly starts to mouth off. And suddenly you've got yourself a following. And don't fuck with our money spinner either. He took divinely earned money, didn't he, out of the pockets and mouths of the children of those Pharisees who were doing a switcheroo, in essence, facilitating the kind of thing my grandma was up to, sending envelopes to amplify the power of her prayer. That's almost exactly the same scam as the money changer scam, isn't it? Same bullshit as people buying small animals to sacrifice them, isn't it? Exactly the same thing. And it'd be like, that kind of behaviour from the grandma. My grandma would have had her hailed as one of the great pillars of the local church. Someone who donated money, someone who gave unconditional support, somebody who attended, somebody... And like, nice juju organisation. It's like the boss. It's like, you know, the God that everyone's got access to. Look down upon that and be like, you turned into a racket. It's like Jesus taught you how to pray. What? Yeah, that Our Father. That's to directly address the master, not the apprentice. You know, not the vessel. No, the actual do what Jesus was doing. It's like directly connect with the Almighty by addressing the Almighty. And it's like Jesus asked. They asked him, how many prayers are in the world? How many of them were offered by Jesus, supposedly the big guy? One. And it's supposedly the most spoken prayer in the world. Our Father who art in heaven. It's like, what made Jesus so special as to he had a direct communication with the Almighty? Not so much communication as to clues, faith. It's like he put it about, didn't he, Jesus? It's like, you know, things you do, mate. Can we do things you do? So you can do what I can do and more. Why is that? Jesus might have been an enlightened preacher, but he was merely a carpenter. Now, if you take someone like Paul, the magistrate and educated man, and the same spirit find its way into Paul, now you got yourself a guy that can create a religion, create a teaching, can shape, that can change the course of history. So it's like, who's the main guy? There's more than one. See, that's the thing where I think they get it wrong in the old canon as to who are the big guys, and it's like there's a few. Your most important figures in the modern story of the AD BC incident is John the Baptist. He's the main player. John the Baptist is the main player. Jesus is the let's say the student, the proto sort of new model, and then the final product that finishes the job is St. Paul. That's the order of the story as I was taught it as a child at Catholic school, and it's a matter of there's too much, let's say, too much worship of Jesus, and I don't think Jesus would be all that keen on the worship. Jesus is worshipped like Elvis. I don't think Elvis was so keen on all that worship either. But Jesus is like one member or one figure in what would be the events that changed the course, started the change of a course of history. Right? Now, you look at the world now, and the world demands that that's what people do. And they be right. Okay, it's like our religion, the stories they tell us of men who, in the real world, not in a fantasy world, in the real world, actually changed the course of history. Actually, for the better as well. With ups and downs, for the better, change the course of history. Right, that should be what your attention is on. That should be what you'd be attempting to do. Not to win an election, not to win an argument, not win a scuffle, not win a fight, not win a battle. No. To see what's happening And to intervene and change the course of history in a biblical, at a biblical scale is the challenge. That's what's there to be done. It's like, and if you're not trying to do that, you should leave the stage and leave it for the people who think that big, because that's what we need. Trump's onto it, isn't he? He's always been the right man. He was always the guy. He gets it. Trump gets it. He's not the people that people think he is. Otherwise, he'd be far too fragile to be able to go as far as he's got. He's just got the right stuff. Yes, there are such things as... let's just say this is a conversation that I continue to have with Mr. Vaknin when I exchange correspondence with him. It's like, you can be so much more than just a mere narcissist. So much more. There's worlds beyond. It's not the end. There are worlds beyond. One can come out of it the other side, something completely new, different. You'll never be a human being ever, but you're going to be something different. As to no mystery why Trump's been so successful. None. It's always been his ability to poke fun at himself. As to you'd think the cringe things he's done in the past trying to get a cheap laugh would have destroyed him, and they just haven't. They've all just made it so. It's convinced people as to when I'm being serious, I'm being serious, and when I'm having a laugh, I'm having a laugh. And it's like this new breed who shit. You got Trump, same as me, working in a factory where everyone's just ribbing each other all the time, working in a warehouse where everyone's just ribbing each other. It's like, even a kid who would have spent his youth around learning the job, the fundamentals. He's been taught properly, hasn't he? To take over. And he'll have spent his whole life around straight talking builders who are talking about absolute. And they've got the most amazing ability to cut through bullshit and get to the job at hand. As to nothing but inch perfect engineering puts up one of them skyscrapers. Nothing but. It's got to be right. It's like Trump's got that baked into him. He's got a lot of good things baked into him, Trump. As to he don't need to be defended. Have you noticed that, guys, girls? You don't need to defend Trump from criticism. He's fucking miles better at dealing with it than any of us are. You don't have to defend him. It's like, look to that guy as to what he's attempting to do. Change the course of history, you think? It's like every now and then in life there are opportunities to just actually just, righteously and in the right way, just take the levers of power and just change things ever so slightly. And he'd be like, people should be attempting to do that. They should be thinking big. We don't need a J.D. Vance victory in the next election to make everything fine again. Nothing's changed. Everyone's still around. So everyone's still angry. People are still out of work. Future's still uncertain. War's still everywhere. It's like, step up. Really step up. It's like, no, it's like those with a capacity to in respect to actually bring people together. That's the thing. That's actually the ultimate failure of this movement. Ineffectual, I'd say, ineffectual right-wing movement is that they failed to bring people together, and if that's the thing, you know, the AI says I'm a seer for the Habsburgs, right? So this kind of insight that I have is actually valuable. Why? Because whoever's got my job thinks like I do. Right? And it's like you can keep the ostensible right or opposition to the government forever divided by choosing its leaders for it and guaranteeing that those are the people who will not unify anything. And we keep falling for it. It's like people make something of themselves, become some kind of commentator, and the boss is lucky and they say, you're shit, you'll do. Yeah, you'll do. We've got a book full of shit on you. Yeah, you'll do. Yeah, you'll do. You can be the guy. Yeah, you can be the guy. And it's just set up to be shit. It's set up to be divisive. It's set up to set different sets on each other. It's set so the left can just ignore it and move on. Oh, well, they're falling apart. We can just move on. Your failure to be effective gives your enemies a false hope. They can just keep looking at you and saying, well, they're never going to be able to get together. We can still divide them up. We can still divide the minds by calling them racist, hitting them buttons, triggering those sensibilities, things that James tried to teach people, calling them woke right. So you see, it's triggered you. You see, you know, so suddenly you're tribal, suddenly you're attacking, suddenly you're character assassin, suddenly you're making up stories about people. It's like, is this the new way? Is this the new wisdom that's emerged? Is this what we've learned from defeat and opposition? Is this what we've learned, that we just completely replicate the methods of those we've just vanquished and just come along with a different set of rules on top of the same framework? I'd like that to be avoided. And I'm not on my own. I'd like that to be avoided. And it's an iceberg I can see. With every little flutter, there's a new avenue as to where there's also then a new danger. And it's like, this is an old danger. That the cliques would attempt to, in essence, share it out amongst themselves. The creation of a new, party. Where it's like in a new order, those who've been, cheering and flag waving, they would hope to be rewarded. It's always been the way in the past. I got a friend who's done. He's probably out of work now. I'm not. He's a friend of mine whose his Facebook account got hacked, so I've lost touch with him. We had in touch with him for years, and his actual Facebook account got stolen and hacked, and was trying to sell crypto and shit. So I don't know if he might have moved and got his account back. I'd have to check it out, but he changed the course of history. He was, he was at University in North Carolina, and he started that university's chapter of the Barack Obama for President campaign, based on what he thought Obama might be, as the guy who'd bring a bit of fairness to it, the guy who'd have some perspective, the guy who'd understand, who'd have some sympathy, and he fell for it, and then sold it, and sold it, and sold it, and had it in the end as to where, fucking organising rallies, good at that, talented guy, good at that. Obama gets elected, he gets lots of plaudits. It's like he gets invited to all kinds of places, and they celebrate him, saying, didn't seem like we could do it when we started, because he came in late, didn't he, as a dark horse. But he was stuck in there all the way. It's like, what did he end up doing next? Suddenly he's an intern at the State Department. It's like he's worked from embassy to embassy to embassy as to where he's served in, like, now what would be sort of quite a long career now. How much younger is he than me, Ryan? About 13 year, maybe 12 year. So he's about 38 now. He's done nothing but work for the State Department. Say he's embassy staff, and he's worked at about 5 different. Nicely bilingual, speaks decent Spanish. Good lad. A proper cheeky bastard, but, you know, a big smiler. You'd see him doing his thing, being photographed with a big smiler with old ladies. He's a bit of a charmer. He's got that going about him. So he's a cheeky chappy around the women and all that. And there's always been that. From being 12 and 13, be a cheeky chappy around the women who can smile and be cute and get attention. And yeah, real player, Ryan. Right? It's like he was rewarded for getting on board the right bandwagon, and then became trusted, and then became rewarded and more rewarded and more rewarded, as to where one day I wouldn't have, in the future, if someone was to say that Ryan was to end up US ambassador to Honduras or something, wouldn't surprise me at all. But what did he get? Good paying job for life. By being a brilliant booster for Obama. Now it's like, in that way, right, in politics, I don't care where it is, Trump could be seen to have been dishing out that kind of favour to his talent. They got him where he's got him where he wants to go. He could be seen to be building that, as mentioned. But I think all these folk in the world, say the old woke right types, right, they expect to be rewarded too. And there's no guarantees that they will be, but they expect to be rewarded as well. And I think what a very fringe people, who most of say the Americans and this UK, a kind of new right-wing sort of Bible basher, because that's what we're talking about. When we're talking about people with that collective urge and that need to punish when they reach for the Bible, that's what we call a Bible basher. Bible bashers have been the enemy of mankind for most of my lifetime, and for them to once upon a time be all pious and come into prevalence again is basically just asking for a sex scandal a week, because that's what the world used to be. It's what it used to be. It's the world of Jimmy Savile. It's the 3 times pious, butter doesn't melt in my mouth. Nobody would ever think it'd be possible that I've got, you know, a woman on the sly, or I'm secretly a fucking gay or drug addict. It's like the world of honest people can't compete in a world where so many people have taken good faith shit and turned it into a freak show. There used to be a lot of attention once upon a time, and it's gone now, hasn't it? On how, like, out there and let's say hypnotic the old TV evangelists once were in the old mega churches. And it's like, if they to you weren't creeping, part of some kind of brainwashed bog, all dazed, deciding that they felt the glory of God and shit like that. No, you don't want them anywhere near power or responsibility. A long war's been fought culturally to defeat them. Unfortunately, the left got the ball, and the left have got no boundaries whatsoever, and they've just eaten their way to degeneracy. Having defeated the pious hypocrites, it's like, in a way, the left is more honest about its perversions and fetishes. It's more honest about it. It tries to cope and live with them, whereas the right will just forever denounce them, blame, in essence, the victim by You know, dismissing things that can't be just deleted or forgotten. Dismissing them. It's like, if you want to return to that bullshit as to where someone pushing around the old Pat Buchanan liberal thing, Pat Buchanan, oh, that cunt, right, okay. I'm old enough to remember that fool when he used to still be doing the rounds. So something, ideologue. Not a man interested in the serious nitty-gritty of the way things work, in my estimation. And half-assed and ineffectual. Had his chance to stake his claim, failed. It's like I'm seeing one set of dicks be replaced with another set of dicks, and just seeing a shifting of who's the oppressor and who gets to be oppressed. And it's like, John, you're applying, like, no, these guys are applying critical theory. James is right. They're applying critical theory. They're cutting it along those lines as well. They've spent so long opposing it that they don't know any other way. It's native to their thinking of black and white. And generalizations, for overgeneralizations for the purposes of maintaining notions of imagined power and ego. To not admit one doesn't know. Well, this is what I've spent my night doing. But for anyone who wants to have a listen to 3 hours and 50 minutes of moving in a direction as to where the way I kind of see it at the minute, and I can't help but think that at the moment I'm just a shadow of myself, to be honest. I don't see any I don't see any reasons to be cheerful. I don't. There's no one's getting it right. As far I ain't got the answers at the moment, but nobody else has either. And it's like, those who you might look to for leadership have just seen so many opportunities to react that's become the job. It's like one of the dangers of the Labour Party, of electing them, I say I was dead set about them getting anywhere near power, would be to fling so much shit at you so rapidly that you're still reeling from the last bombshell before the next one arrives, as to where they can make. For those who are in the business of following and analysing politics, the Labour Party will gaslight you to death until you give up. And they're doing that. They're trying to burn people out. With the propaganda, they're trying to burn out their opposition. And it's like, if you don't see that, you can fall into that being your day-to-day. And then it's be a matter of you being played like a fiddle. Because they've got, in essence, trolls who can put tweets out calling themselves Keir Starmer. They will exhaust you. The scandal on Thursday is generally beaten to death by the revelations on Saturday. And it'd be a matter of every single one of these new fuck-ups is another scandal. And it's like there's just not enough. There's not enough eyes and sets of hands and dedicated people to actually hold the powers that be accountable for any of this shit that's piling up. And it's like, do not, if one can. People like me make a video whenever they fancy. It doesn't affect me. I can shut myself off from bullshit like that. But those who find themselves trapped in the day-to-day coverage of this, find means, right, of not taking it so seriously. you're up against now. It's like you underestimate how good these guys are on the left. You misunderstand that they know your nature intrinsically, and they've set about winding you up. And I say James has tried to demonstrate that to you. That in the way that he can chink at you, the people who are feeding you your outrage bait, the people who are providing you your content, they've got you taped. And for years have been trying to one up each other in how offended and outraged they can make you. And I don't think anyone's learned this lesson. They're all making too much money out of reacting to stimuli, and they're being, in their own way, trained and conditioned to react to stimuli by the people who mean to harm them. It's a dangerous time. People should take heed of what James is trying to tell them about how weak they are to the right buttons being pressed, and how they've adopted the mental illness of the worst of their opponents is also present in their own ranks. Two people being fucking loon, fanatic narcissists to go into war with each other, it doesn't put them on the same side, you know. Them sharing certain reactions and traits and patterns of behaviour. It doesn't make them friends, it doesn't make them at league with each other. It makes them people who will go to war quite ruthlessly with each other and do their best to drag everybody down with them. Get everybody involved. That's the danger.